dedicated to World Social Media Day. It's a milestone year for us. For the last decade, we've come together every year to pause, reflect, and ask an important question: where is social media headed next? Because in an industry that changes by the minute, taking a moment to make sense of what's changing is just as important as keeping up. This year, our conversations are centered around one big idea: beyond attention, the battle of relevance on social. Feeds are crowded, trends move faster than ever. AI is reshaping discovery, and creators are redefining influence. In a world where everyone is competing to be seen, relevance has become the real competitive advantage. So, today, we explore what it really takes for brands to be found, trusted, and remembered. And we've got a fantastic lineup of conversations to help us unpack exactly that. We will start with a keynote session from scroll to chat to cart, driving relevance in India's new shopping era. Moving on, we have moment marketing needs a moment. Has every trend become a branding opportunity, or is moment marketing becoming or losing its edge? Next up, when AI answers before your brand can, how GEO is changing discovery, search, and social visibility. We'll further explore fast content, slow recall. Is AI making brands more forgettable? From there, we move to creators are no longer the media plan, they are the media. And finally, we wrap up with microdrama, mega recall. Can bite sized storytelling deliver lasting brand impact? Along the way, we'll hear from marketers, creators, strategists, and industry leaders who are helping shape what social media looks like today and where's it headed tomorrow. Hi, hello, everyone. I'm Sneha Mehta, and I'll be your host for today's conference. I'll be taking you through an afternoon of panels, keynotes, and conversations that challenge assumptions, spark new ideas, and hopefully leave you with a fresh perspective on the future of social media. And because today is all about social media, we'd love for you to be a part of the conversation. We are streaming live across LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and X. Share your thoughts, tell us your biggest takeaways, ask questions, and tag Social Samosa using hashtag SMLive. Before we begin our sessions, we'd like to hear from someone who's been instrumental in shaping SMLive into the platform it is today. Please join me in welcoming the editor in chief and managing partner of Social Samosa Network, Mrinal Mathur Rajwani. I would like to remind everyone that we are streaming live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and X. So share your thoughts, tell us your biggest takeaways, ask us questions, tag Social Samosa using hashtag SMLive.
Hi, Sneha. Hello. I think we've gone back to the same era of am I visible? Am I audible? So if I am, then guys, please drop a note. Sneha, am I audible? Oh, awesome. I'm audible. I think this will, as much as technology can grow, we can never outgrow out of this feature of asking everyone. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to SM Live 2026. It is an incredibly special edition for us because this is the 10th season of SM Live. And what started as a thought for World Social to celebrate World Social Media Day, I'm sure we never thought that we'll be celebrating for 10 season and beyond. When we started with SM Live, going live itself was exciting. Um, we all felt like broadcasters. Host was so nervous. I am yet, but before hitting that button, audiences felt like when we we were live, audiences felt like they're getting access to a rare glimpse of someone's world, and everyone was so obsessed with it, and we all were worried about who joined and how many joined and what they commented, and that was all about social media then. I mean, not all about, but going live. Then we all survived the Zoom life, where overnight all our conversation became just about starting everything with am I audible, am I visible, and everything, just a preview I gave you just a few minutes ago. Um, Yet in those days, we did some of the memorable SMLive sessions with speakers that were like with speakers and sessions that were on for an hour, with attendees sitting for 7, 7, 8, 8 hours straight to listen to what the speaker has to say, the learning and lessons associated with it. It was amazing. Fast forward to today, we are struggling with attention. We have become like a, we keep saying that there is a limited edition, limited retention that we have. Attention is just in seconds, and our audience just keeps scrolling, and which is why the today's um theme for today's session, for today's season, makes more sense for us, because beyond attention, we want to talk about uh, the relevance of it. We just don't want to hold someone's attention. We want to talk about what is happening, what relevance they have. We Social media has transformed how the brands are built. It has been made these brands more visible, more accessible, more accountable, and it has reshaped how advertising and market. Uh, it has reshaped advertising, marketing, and consumer behavior. And now we're entering another chapter. AI is influencing discovery before the first click. Creators are becoming context of search, trust, and they have become a channel of reach. Moment marketing demands judgment and not speed. We have seen so many examples of that. Micro dramas are capturing attention, and the real question is whether everything else, all of this, can build a lasting brand recall. Attention is everywhere. Brands are struggling and trying hard to gain and their audience attention, but is relevance there? Is because I know for a fact that relevance is so much hard to earn, and so I really hope that in next few hours, from the 20 plus voices who's come from brands and agencies and platforms and creator ecosystem, will not only hold your attention but will be relevant for you, will decode the evolving social landscape and what comes after that. So, to everyone who joined us, thank you so much for making time for us. A very happy World Social Media Day, and we hope that it's an engaging and insightful session for you all. And so, let's begin. I would request Neha to take over, and I really hope that all the sessions that follow through the day will be will be of some good for you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrinal, for setting the context for today's conference so perfectly. Um, So, to kick things off, we are beginning with a keynote that perfectly captures how social media is transforming the way people discover and shop. The path to purchase has changed dramatically. Consumers no longer follow a straight line from awareness to purchase. They scroll, they chat, they seek recommendations, they shop, often without leaving the same platform. In this keynote, from scroll to chat to cart, driving relevance in India's new shopping era, we'll explore how consumer behavior is evolving, how discovery, conversations, and consumers are becoming increasingly connected, and what brands need to do to stay relevant at every step of the journey. To moderate this keynote, I'd like to invite Hitesh Rajwani, CEO of Social Samosa Network. Joining him for the keynote is Meghna Apparao, Director E-commerce and Retail, Meta India.
Hello, hello. I think I'll repeat what Mridul said. Am I audible? Am I visible? Hi, Vegna. How are you doing?
All I can say is you are audible and visible to me.
Nice. I think if both of us are audible and visible, then the audience can obviously connect the cues. Um, Thank you so much, Meghna, for doing this, and happy World Social Media Day to you. I mean, it's probably my third interaction with you. And I remember the last one you were saying that I go read up on what you had said last time. And this time, actually, I did. And to summarize what Meghna's marketing knowledge expands to, I'll just put like two, three quotes that are stuck with me, with my head ever since I've heard Meghna do a keynote at Sammy a couple of years ago, when like some time ago when she was the CMO at Godrej. I remember she'd mentioned about how I'm the voice of the consumer and not the consumer. And sometime last year, I think I did a fireside chat with Meghna where she'd given a very interesting anecdote on how we live in a time where people are not finding products, products are finding people. And that those two things have been stuck. I think there was one more interaction which didn't come through because of some technical glitches. But I remember there also Meghna had given me a dope on click and mortar, like how brick and mortar is now being reshaped into click and mortar. So I think I would want to build up on this chat from that point in time. I know, Meghna, that marketing doesn't operate in binaries anymore, and I think the way India shops today is not linear for sure. Like funnel is now slowly becoming a very dated term, and people use flywheel, people use like a fluid journey from discovery to consideration to purchase. And I think both Mril and Sneha have actually established how our theme for this season is about beyond attention, the battle for relevance on social. So, from Meta's point of view, what does relevance actually mean today, and how is it shaping like shopping journeys in India, and how is it shaping consumer behaviors through and through?
Super. Thanks a lot, Hitesh. Thanks for having me here. And I do know that if I give you a tagline, which you'll remember and remind me the next time I'm back, I must say the ones that you quoted are my favorite. So I am going to go back to even those. But to answer your first question, I think the first step is to get into the consumer shoes. So very similar to one of the quotes that you just called out. I think today, because social media platforms are used by absolutely everyone everywhere, it's not an only Gen Z, only Metro, only young people phenomenon. It's absolutely everyone. You walk into an airport, you sit in a lounge, you have a person sitting next to you who's doing that. You go shopping in a sabzi mandi today, you have someone who's waiting for his next customer and he's watching reels. So I think wherever you go, it's really ubiquitous. So in this context, I think the most important thing is that, hey, how do we participate in this journey the most meaningful way? I would say the first thing is, for me, it's no longer the funnel or even the flywheel. It is the infinity loop. Because I think the way you can keep the consumer coming back to you. So maybe you're a new brand, you start with discovery, move to consideration, get them to buy, but you want them to come back and buy. So, how do you engage with them after that first purchase? Through your interactions on that experience. If you are, for example, a TV brand, your installation, your service, everything that you follow through on. Or at the same time, if you're a fashion brand, how do you bring the next drop or the next collection back to the user and then take them back through this funnel of, not funnel, the infinity loop of discovery, consideration, purchase? And I think if we as marketers start imagining this as this loop of that consumer life cycle where you keep fueling them in, but then hold them through that journey. What we see at Meta is, be it Instagram, Facebook, or WhatsApp, as a combination of these fantastic platforms, which are kind of true to every Indian in every possible way. A combination of these helps you do the right thing at the right time. So you may be using Instagram to discover a lot of products, but as you flow through into the purchase journey, and then maybe you use WhatsApp, I've added something to the cart, but I'm in the midst of doing something else. So WhatsApp comes in and nudges me saying that, hey, this is sitting in your cart. Do you want to complete the purchase because there's a sale, deal, or discount that's wrapping up? So I think if you're able to hold that consumer journey and think through it as an entire loop, I think this is my answer to what previously was a linear journey. And at the same time, when you think about this entire piece about people finding products versus products finding people, we have to kick off a keynote. The word AI has to come in the first 5 minutes, and this is that moment. I think what we do at Meta really well is for us to keep consumers engaged on the platform. AI plays a very powerful role in recommending what content you get to see. More than 50% of the content that you or I see is actually AI recommended. Now, that inspires the entire discovery process, which to me as a marketer is a huge ally. Why I say that is in the past, I would have to think about a consumer and put them into one specific cohort. So, Meghna is let's say, a fashion product seeking customer, and that's the cohort I'm going to target her with. Well, that is true. But let's say it's Father's Day coming up. I'm actually looking for interesting inspiration about things that I can buy for my dad. And that set of products is going to be quite different. Product experiences is going to be quite different from what I do normally. But because I'm playing with that content, watching reels, looking at creators, looking for ideas and inspiration, I then jump into that cohort where I'm looking for that stuff. And if because you don't have to hold me to one particular cohort, you at that point of time are also able to send me messages as marketers on what is a great Father's Day gift, which is far beyond women's fashion, which I shop for otherwise. So I think I liked what your opening speaker said about one of the topics on movement marketing that you're going to talk about. I actually think that movement marketing has made us as marketers even more challenged in a good way. We have so many ways more to engage with our consumers, but how do you get back into the consumer shoes to understand the moments that matter and find the right creative concepts to be able to put into this magic machine, to be able to then complete that infinite loop?
Interesting. I think you've given me my first takeaway and the next takeaway for a chat with you, where it's no more a funnel or a flywheel, it's an infinity loop. And probably AI is one of those tools that you need to power through that infinity loop. I actually resonate with a bunch of things that you mentioned about how we give the AI a lot of signals about what we're looking for. And then obviously we get a bunch of those recommendations. Like I have a 18-month-old nephew, and I keep searching for a lot of things for him which are very personalized to him, or like say some new learning toys. And I've found a bunch of these products, and now because I've engaged with those products, I've bought some of those. I think a lot of my ads engine or even the recommendations on the Explore are these toys which kids of that age would use. And I think that connects with the whole thing that those products are finding me, and obviously like taking me through that infinity loop. um, I'll take a segue from AI impacting consumer journeys to like meta platforms, where short form video is one of the most popular format, and creators have become very central to how people discover brands, how people make decisions about purchases, like consideration and even purchases. So what role do you think reels and creators are playing in influencing shopping decisions today? And how should marketers bank on this whole creator commerce bandwagon?
Perfect. Great question. I think that's probably at the heart and center of the new playbooks that every marketer today is inventing. Because about everyone today watches reels. So we did a study where we said that almost 97% of the short form video viewing is happening on meta platforms. And that content is consumed in the form of reels, and often they are creator led reels. Yeah. So it's definitely something which is a consumer behavior and a habit. Now, the next question is, if that is the consumer behavior and habit, how do I leverage it? But I think as marketers, we should also take one step back first and say, how do I deliver business outcomes, and how do I use this consumer behavior to deliver a business outcome? And I would say that's the first question for us to both learn and unlearn as marketers, because new tools, new formats will keep evolving. Always learn to ask the right question. And the right question is not what we call any kind of vanity metric or any kind of a lead metric alone, but it is your business outcome metric. And I think what we see at Meta is that's the way we partner with the brands that we work with is, hey, define your business outcome. And let's then go figure out how to use these products to be able to deliver that outcome. And I'm going out on a limb here, like, don't look at engagement metrics. They are vanity metrics. At best, they will be a lead indicator of something good that's going to happen. But even if you have middling engagement, you can still have fantastic business outcomes. So always measure for the business outcome when you're using these new playbooks. While we do that, I think the creator commerce piece is massively surging, Hitesh. So it is not, it's a party which is like happening everywhere right now. Now, each brand has to figure out, how do I build the creator playbook that works for my brand? And because there's no one answer to that, it has to come with a lot of testing and learning. But all we know at Meta, and I'm going to throw some stats out here, we see reels and creators or short form video in general is driving about 81% of discovery. But you opened this conversation about, hey, it's all about discovery. So you probably know this and everyone's kind of familiar with it. But what is even more hard hitting is about 68% of consideration and 47% of purchase. So purchase outcomes are being driven by this kind of consumer behavior and well entrenched across brands. So if anyone listening in is thinking that, hey, this is great for discovery, is it actually going to lead to a conversion or a purchase? The answer is like a resounding yes. And it's about going and figuring out how to make it happen. The second piece, I think, is when we think of creators, there are macro celebrity like creators, and then there are micro or nano creators. I think it's really important to find the right mix of these creators which work for your brand. And why that's important is you need scale. What do I mean by scale? You and I, for the same brand, different kind of communication may appeal to us. And as a result, there'll be a creator who sounds and feels authentic to you. Another one completely feels and sounds authentic to me. So the brand needs to get two creators on board with the same brief, delivering communication in the manner that's authentic to them and that will resonate with us. So you do need scale. But everyone operates with a P&L. So when you get scale, you probably want to find really good nano creators who are able to create lots of pieces of content which go against micro cohorts to be able to access and reach. So I think that's a trick that the best marketers are now learning and adopting. And second piece is not just to work with them on a one-off, because the creator is also a brand. Just remember that. If I'm a creator, I have a personal brand as a creator. Now you as a marketer have your own brand. It's important that both these brands have kind of a synergistic fit with each other. So I think if I were a marketer, I'd advise you to invest in finding cohorts of creators, micro, nano creators who resonate with your brand. And when you know that fit, invest in that relationship so they become kind of your extension as users, and then talk about it in the right language that appeals to everyone. And I'll say one more thing, one more nuance on this is it's not about just your category. So if I were a beauty brand, I'm not only looking for beauty creators. I'll give you a fantastic example. So let's say it's peak summer, what it is across many parts of India right now. Sunscreen is a very important product. But this is also summer holiday season. You travel a lot. So when you travel, sunscreen is quite an important thing to have in your toolkit. So it's a great idea for a beauty brand with a sunscreen to pick a travel creator. It's a great fit. So I think people have to start thinking about things like this to find the right creator set or playbook, not just mimic a best practice that exists and kind of make it their own. And this is when creator commerce will not feel like a pushy ad. It'll feel like something that's so relevant to me that I'm able to resonate with it. And this is the second part, which is the targeting piece on platforms like ours. All I talked about right now was identify the insight, identify the consumer insight, bring the right creator, create the right content. The magic is also happening on the targeting side, because in the past world, you had to define likes, interests, demographics, and tightly go after a certain audience. But today, because of AI recommendations in engines being really powerful, the stat I told you, 47% converting into purchase, it's because targeting heavy lift can be done by the social media platforms like ourselves. So the right consumer will get the right content and hence convert. So those are my three C's.
Very nicely put. I think even the piece on nano creators and macro creators, I feel that nano creators are underrepresented or actually not represented at all. So it's good for platforms such as yours to lift them from where they are right now. And like the piece, I think I connected it with your mention of consumer journeys not being linear. So I think even the process of identifying creators should not be linear. While you were giving this example, I remember, I think at some concert, a beauty brand gave out lip balms to a bunch of creators, and like that became a thing. And I think it was like a viral case study across platforms. I think that's like I have a lot to process from what you've mentioned, but I think in the interest of time, I would want you to just help us with some closing thoughts on like which tie back to the theme of this season, as well as tie back to the current times, where how do you think brands can stay relevant in this evolving landscape, and what should they prioritize over the next few months or years going forward?
Yeah, fantastic question. So I think three things. Some things never change. And I'll begin with that, which is you have to understand your consumer and stay relevant in their minds. Let me give you an example. Gen Z. Last year, if something was amazing, I'd be saying it's lit. Today, if I say lit, it's cringe. I have to say it's on fire. Now you
Yeah.
need to know the difference. Should I be saying this conversation is lit, or should I be saying this conversation is fire?
Fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to be in your consumer shoes, spending time with them, consuming the platforms in the way they consume the platform. So you are constantly at the leading edge of consumer understanding. Yeah. I'm going to do a cheeky one. If I send you an emoji which had a skull on it, what would your reaction be? What would you think I was telling you?
I think it's something which is like brutal, outrageous. I mean,
I hopefully not.
yeah,
So at the end of this conversation, if I sent you a skull, I actually
it's
mean I'm
deadly. Okay.
dying, but I'm dying because it was so good. Yeah,
Oh,
so that's what that emoji today's context it means. So I think
okay.
the fact that I'm able to code some of these things is just my own personal journey. I have Gen Z kids at home, a bunch of Gen Z at work, and I work in the heart and center of a social media company. So I think
Yeah.
just staying on top of these things, it brings me excitement, but I think also makes me stay very relevant. So I think that's the very first principle. The second one I think is in the space of AI, and we use this really cool term at Meta called AI native. So we want each of ourselves to become AI native. What we mean by that is to embed AI into everything that we do. Map out our workflows, map out of what we do on an everyday basis with our teams, with our agencies, etc., and convert that into a way that can be most optimally done with AI. And when you look at it as brand leaders and marketers, it's about saying, how can I would say two places. The first one is invest your energies in figuring out various tools that you can use for creative generation. You focus on identifying the consumer and the consumer insight, but get scale with leveraging the right tools for creative generation at scale. And finally, use platforms like ourselves who are built on core AI to use and test and pilot all the AI powered, say, ad products, which allow you to do better targeting for impact. And I think finally, going back to the infinity loop conversation that we talked about, we spent a fair bit of time discussing reels and creators and how that's important. I think there is still a lot of opportunity in the space of WhatsApp, agentic AI to be able to close that loop. So I think those would be something to look forward to going ahead.
Great. Thank you, Meghna. Thank you so much for summarizing this for us. I think this was very insightful. I feel that 15 minutes was not enough, and I hope I get to spend another like I get to spend some more time for another session at some other point in time. But thank you so much for squeezing in time for this. I know you have a meeting to go to now.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure. And this conversation was on fire, and I'm dying, which is what the emoji will say.
Absolutely. I think
Thank you
I'll
so
tell
much.
my Gen Z team to start sharing more notes with me, because I'm quite completely, like, not completely, but I'm out of sync for sure in this one.
Thank you so much, Ritesh.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Meghna. Yeah. Over to you, Sneha.
Thank you, Meghna, for the insightful keynote. And obviously, thank you, Tesh, for taking us through it. It offered a compelling look at how shopping journeys are becoming more increasingly connected. Before we move ahead with our sessions, a quick update from us at Social Samosa. Entries for SAMI, our flagship awards celebrating the best in social media marketing, are now open. We are also gearing up for 30 Under 30, where we celebrate the industry's brightest young talent. To stay updated on both, follow Social Samosa across our social media channels. Now, let's talk about one of social media's favorite marketing playbooks. In a world where every trend, meme, and viral moment invites a brand response, is moment marketing still helping brands stand out, or has it become part of the noise? Moment marketing needs a moment, explores when brands should join cultural conversations, when they should sit them out, and how to stay relevant without losing their own voice. I would like to call Hitesh Rajwani, CEO of Social Samosa Network, back to join us as the moderator of the session. Along with that, I would like to welcome our panelists to join us on this virtual stage. Viren Narona, co-founder and CEO, The New Thing; Isha Gupta, manager, social media and brand marketing, Swiggy; Dhruv Sachdeva, founder and CCO, Humor Me; and Deeksha Das, creative head, culture.
Hi, Dhruv. How are you?
Good, good, good. Nice to.
Congratulations on the Cannes win, guys. I mean, on the debut, I mean, and even in when there is so much scarcity of India wins, I mean, must be very special.
It was very truly special. Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Do we have Hi Diksha?
Hi, Hitesh. I just
Hi, hi.
hello. Hi, how are you?
All well, all well. Welcome to the panel. I believe Viren is also here. Hi, Viren.
Hey guys, how's it going?
All well, all well. I think Isha is also here. Uh, Team, can we check if Isha's there? I think Isha is also here. Hi, Isha. What's up?
Hello, sorry, got the bump a bit late.
No problem. So I think Sneha has set a very good context to the session, and I think a lot of our promos also banged on movement marketing because we do talk a lot about moments and we capture moments in real time, and a lot of criticism that comes to movement marketing gets very personal to us, personal to me as well, where people like social samosa, why are you guys promoting something like this? Why do you have to appreciate lazy work from brands which is very quick, and like that has been a journey. And then obviously there has been that other side of us where we contemplate on a lot, we reflect on a lot on what was the origin of movement marketing. It started as something where brands were supposed to respond to happenings in the culture and trying to not even find a place, but just having that commentary personality to them. And but then from that point to today, where a lot of brand responses are very same, they are very templated. There is this rush, like it's like a fastest fingers first to post something the moment something happens. And I think as a result, brands are not actually chasing uh, like they're not actually chasing relevance or culture, they're just chasing visibility and likes. So for us, the question at this point is not how fast can brands respond, it's more to do with when does a brand have a right to enter a cultural movement, and when it is better for them to stay silent, because that is one learning that has to pass through and through, because not every moment is a marketing opportunity. And if every moment is your moment, then none of them are, in my understanding. So I think let's take a moment to understand how we can make moment marketing great again, how we can avoid brickbats to the discipline that has been one of the disruptions in the current times. Quickly, Viren, if you could tell me, like, where did we lose the plot, bro? I mean, what happened? Viren, you're on mute.
Can you hear me? Yeah. So I think moment marketing is a wonderful distraction from actually coming together and creating a social media and content strategy. Because it's so clear cut, right? It's somebody else has created a moment on the internet. All I need to now do, like 500 million other people, is just give my take on it, which more often than not, like you said, has to be some funny pun or a joke. I think the real question that we've stopped asking is, do I want to win attention or do I want to create memory? Right? Like if the objective is to win attention, then whose attention are you really winning? Right? My strong belief is that the attention that you do win in moment marketing stays within marketing circles. And even if you do it, right, you're giving more power to the moment. Like if India got trampled by Ireland, people remember that. They don't remember what some brand did. We remember all of them. We're all like patting each other on the back saying, yeah, kya mast kiya, bahut funny hai. But at the end of the day, the moment is what bolsters forward, right? Not what we do. So is it essential? I think it is essential, but it can't be the core fulcrum of your content strategy. It has to be a part of it. Like anything that you do is a part of it. So I think we kind of lost the plot there, where we're not really asking ourselves whether we're building long-term memory. I think we're looking at it very short-term. We're saying, hey, listen, how can I get 7 earned media mentions so I can put it on my quarterly deck so that my CMO says, "Ha, social pe kuch ho raha hai. Let's keep this boat running." Right. And this is coming from me having been on the brand side as well. That's genuinely what I had to do. I had to justify our budgets month on month for why we want to invest more on social. And then the quickest way for me to do this is not to present like a 1-2 year long strategy. Nobody's interested in sort of waiting that long. But these earned media mentions, these topical marketing wins, that's what allowed me to sort of put wins on a slide. So I think we kind of lost the plot out there, which is short-term gratification versus what are we really doing in the long term.
Yeah.
And that's just me.
But
That's just me. Yeah.
No, I understand. But I think that like this short-term salience or short-term visibility that you get from moments, if they are like if you look at it on in the longer run, that like if you're doing so many short-term things, it leads to something in the long term. Something what I know, like people will bash me in the comments or otherwise that, oh, Amul is an example that everyone brings it up, but Amul with that commentary on billboards has like etched their names in terms of movement, and now everyone would look forward to an Amul take to a movement that is happening.
And that is a decade-long strategy. That's not something that
Yeah.
happened over a couple of weeks. Even
Yeah.
Dove Real Beauty, I think a wonderful example is that's a decade-long commitment to one strategy. That may have started off as a moment. It's done around moments, but I think what they've managed to do is they've managed to sort of occupy their own little memory palace in our heads versus being the brand that did something funny when that one thing happened. I think
Yeah.
a lot of that has become this. There are 10% brands that are doing something new, and
Yeah.
power to them. Yeah. Like they're the ones keeping the boat moving forward.
True. And so I think it's safe to say that I think it's not movement marketing is not a sprint, it's like a marathon, and it's um like it's something that brands need to be invested in for the longer term and not just for the short spikes. I would like to bring in Diksha on this. Diksha, if like there's this thought that a lot of brands have, and like there is very little education about it, that if in today's time every brand wants to be culturally relevant, and like we know that not every conversation has a brand space in it, what filter should a brand use before deciding to enter a movement, and where is it that they should choose silence over that one topical quip, very quick tweet or a post?
Very nice, actually. And I'm representing culture. So every time culturally relevant is the phrase that comes up, it really spikes me up. But yeah, I think, see, the starting point really becomes to identify what your brand's culture even looks like. At Culture, we work with an Adidas, and at the same time, we also work with an Airtel. And culture looks very different for each of those brands. When Messi came to India, there is merit in understanding that you have to actually recognize how exclusive that moment is for you, and Adidas recognizing that that moment is exclusively for them and then doing something on it makes sense, not just moving Like an Airtel then stepping in and doing something there will not make as much sense, or a Shadi.com moving in and doing something will not make as much sense. But what we did was we turned around that messy moment into making it an Adidas moment, where we then pulled in content around it. We thought of what could actually Adidas do with a messy in there. Similarly, now when there is so much conversation on the internet about Zakir's last show, this, that, I know an Airtel can pull something like that, can do something with a Zakir where they make that moment their moment, right? It's the filter of exclusivity that you really have to, turn the knob on and then see, yeah, this moment can become mine and my audience will understand this moment. My audience is already talking about these kind of things that they want to see from us. So now I own this moment and I generate more content over it and make that a viral moment that can then become a long-term, strategy, like Viren said. So yeah, I think exclusivity is really like the most important factor to keep in mind when there is so much happening on the internet. Which moment is your moment matters, and then you jump on that. You don't jump on every moment. It's really not going to get you too much out of it.
Dhruv, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I first of all think I of course agree with what everybody said here. Look, I think moment marketing can be an extremely good strategy given the category that you're in. Now, if you're a publishing company, let's talk about the fact that say you're an OTT brand, right? Or if you're a OTT aggregator, like we work with Tata Play and Tata Play Binge, every week, every day, there is a new OTT show that is suddenly dominating certain subcultures or certain culture, right? So for us, the strategy from day zero was, how does a brand behave like a creator giving you recommendations around content, for example? And so if you look at content creators in the recommendation space, they're talking about that new book, that new film. So how do you become the cultural zeitgeist of taste and people's taste, right? And it's not basically the brand coming in saying, Tata Play Binge, happy birthday Dhoni, right? Or happy birthday Messi, or Messi has done something today. We've seen this, like every brand jumps on moments. Like very recently, there was this whole, the Modi with the Parle-G and all of this. And we had every brand wanting to come in, मेरे को भी कुछ funny करना है, right? Which is such a the furthest thing from the truth, because I mean तेरा क्या business है बात करने का? I mean, quite honestly, पार्ले जी का हो गया, वो भी शायद खुश है कि नहीं, God knows. But if they are happy, cool. Now, why do you as a brand manager need to jump on this and do one post and do one funny joke, right? I think we're not in 2015 anymore. We're definitely not in a time and age where today people care about, oh, this brand commented on this and there was some banter that was engineered at the back end. I think true earned media can happen if you are very conscious. Now, I think that every category, now if I'm in, like we talked about pharma, for example, you were congratulating us, etc., right? Now, if I have a doctor creator who's a specialist on my team, and I think every brand should have a specialist in their niche, in their space, because there are moments that are happening, right? There are new guidelines, there's new governance, you've got the health ministry releasing new things, there's new technology. Now, how do you own it, like with authenticity in that space, right? Because let's understand, today, if you're doing the 0 to 1 content build, and if you're creating organic content at scale, which is what I'm relentlessly passionate about. I got laughed out of rooms in 2015 when Gillette said, "Ki, what is this creator business and all of this?" And I've been, irreverent about doing this for the last 12 years. Now it's suddenly everybody's talking about creators, and we hired creators in micro niches for every brand. The goal was that, look, at the end of the day, we need to understand that if you have a creator in your space who's an expert, who you're hiring for their expertise, not for their reach, because followers don't matter anymore. It's interest-based reach. It's not follower-based reach. It's designed for potentially recommendations engine. So we need to understand that, look, if a doctor's breaking the news around what is the latest stuff that's happening in your category, that's extremely relevant for your category. And then you're going to have a pull. And so it's going to give you, potentially exponential results much quicker to get organic reach. I also believe that anything that anybody does with paid marketing or moment marketing is terrible, because the whole point of doing, moment marketing is to potentially get tremendous amounts of organic velocity. I mean, you've seen this with Tanmay. He'll come 2 days later, but he'll still talk about Salman Bhai is Savage, 10 days later. So I think it can be an entire content strategy for your brand. And I do think it's a tremendous moat to have in terms of being able to get tremendous amounts of organic reach and attention if you know how to do it right. But it's not everybody's moment and jump on everything that happens. It's you becoming the person to own or become the breaking news in your category, to become the authority in your category. And when you do that well, you truly win, right? So, I mean, I have examples. I mean, we did it for Duolingo during the Swachh Bhasha
I
thing.
remember.
And we jumped and we said Swachh Bhasha, we made it from, Bharat. Now we jumped on that. It was dangerous, but it made sense for the brand to do, right? So you need to know where you need to jump in, not just do it कि चलो पार्ले जी का हो गया तो हम भी कर लेते हैं. That's my 2 cents.
Oh, I love what you did with Duolingo, I believe. Those menu cards which had like spelling typos and Duo was there. I remember that. And Viren and I were doing that because Viren did a reel on this parlay melody and like,
I think I said the exact same thing you did, but way more aggressively. भाई क्यों करना है यार? मतलब let the company have its moment. There's no need to try and take away attention uh, from that. There's just a big plus one to both of you guys. I think one thing I love asking in interviews is, if I had to take brands away from social media tomorrow, would it actually become a better place? The yes comes back so fast, it's bone chilling.
yeah.
So then my next question is, भाई तुझे क्यों करना है? Why do you want to do? तो आके क्या करेगा यहाँ पे यार? And I think the
Yeah.
problem is, I think 10% of brands out there are taking big risks. And I think the language of the internet is risk, right? If nobody's taking a risk, nobody's doing anything original. And risk is what creates memory. And then one person takes the risk, and the rest of the 90% use that risk as a thank you for doing that. Now let me copy this template and format. Whether that's dragging old actors out of the woodwork and making them say Gen Z things, whether it was making stuff go viral and then plastering it all over meme pages. I think the best filter and first filter to ask is, if my brand is entering this conversation, am I moving this moment forward in a meaningful way, or am I exuding this very excessive pick me energy? And I think a lot of the times we don't stop and ask ourselves that question, which is, are you adding value? Does your participation make this bigger? The internet doesn't need any of us to react to moments. They'll do it by themselves, right? Moment marketing is a very marketing phrase. It's basically the internet doing its thing, but brands joining the conversation.
Viren, actually, I would say every creator is a moment marketer. I mean, you look at Nitin Joshi, look at Sarthak Ahuja, look at anybody, their entire strategy is, can I break something in my category, in my news, and ride off the tailwinds of, because there's no guaranteed reach. You could have 0 followers and get 1 million views on your first reel, as you know, and you can have 1 billion followers and get 10,000 views. Nobody cares.
Absolutely. I think till date, my favorite moment marketing campaign is this campaign called Nugs for Carter. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Nugs for Carter.
Absolutely.
I mean, a single tweet turned into an entire 2-3 week campaign strategy. I think that's such a beautiful example of it. And there are dime a dozen examples out there. But I think it's just like a risk that the company took, saying, we'll give it to you for life, just get these many retweets.
Yeah. I'd like to bring in Nisha here because she's the voice of the brand, and I think she works with a brand where Viren had worked in the past, and she also, I feel that Instamart or even Swiggy for that matter are like one of the most progressive brands when it comes to moment marketing. I feel that they've managed to tap on moments which we don't see as mainstream as well, like those hard Indian images or the collabs with native very niche creators who are viral in their own sense. And I think they've been doing this consistently over time. So, Isha, I want to hear your opinion on how do you see this as someone on the brand side, and where is it that, like, what has actually helped you form a strategy from moment marketing as a discipline?
Yes, I think big plus one to what everyone's been saying, and I think something Dhruv ended his section with was that, can you really become the breaking news in whatever you're talking about? I think that's one of the biggest filters, at least we use. There's no point in speaking sort of if you're not going to be heard, right? So I think my biggest question always is that either what we're talking about is really big or what we are saying is something different. It's almost like there's an open mic out there whenever there's a moment that gets formed, right? There are 100 comics going up. Everybody has the same context that they're talking about. Can you really say something that's going to be remembered? And I mean, most of the times nobody remembers the first guy. They always remember the funniest guy, or they remember the guy who took that context and maybe did something really different. So I think that's one of the biggest filters. It's never a checklist. There is never, to be honest, we don't even track how many times did we get an earned media. It's usually looked at like a yearly level. So I think if you remove that pressure to make sure that constantly there's a earned media mention coming in. And if you just develop a little bit of a risk appetite, I think those are two things that really go a long way.
And I think what Viren said about risk leading to a lot of rewards, and
Yeah.
I think the internet also will only reward people who are either very vulnerable, who are taking that risk, or who are being very authentic. I know it might sound very jargony, but if I've seen that with Social Samosa, when if and when we've done like a typo blunder, that post has gone like to people like in circles that we can't even imagine. So I think one thing that was common in each one of your statement was that it's not as much about speed, though like all this while speed has been considered as one of those advantages in moment that you have to be the first one to crack something at it, and then obviously other brands will follow. Uh, I want to understand your take. What matters more, whether it is the distinctiveness that you add to a conversation, or it is the speed, or it is very subjective. Like maybe there are moments which are very short-lived, there, wherein speed is the only advantage that you could tap on, or there are moments which have like a longer cycle, who like could stay for a longer term, could become like very deep into the culture. So how do you decide when to go fast and when to think through and then do something?
I think there's always a window, right? Like whenever something's happened, you know that, okay, I've got 2, 3 days to talk about it, or maybe I've got a few hours to talk about it. Keep that window in mind, but I am a strong believer there's no fastest fingers first. So there's no point in being the first brand out there to say something. That's a very self-indulgent concept. Nobody will remember you were the first brand, right? Nobody's screenshot will say this is the time a brand posted, but it will say what the brand said. So I think extremely important, even if you don't have the right thing to respond and you want to take some time thinking about it, do it. And even let's say 6 hours later, 2 hours later, 48 hours later, you don't have anything to say, better to step back and not say anything at all. So I think any day perspective and what you really want to say is greater than speed, at least in my opinion.
Anyone
We'd actually
else?
done this campaign called Gaddagiri for WakeFit, right? Now, in that campaign, there was a blend of moments that were years old and then moments that are currently happening. She's absolutely right. I think relevancy matters way more than whether you're fast or slow, right? We did a Poonam Pandey reel, and the Poonam Pandey event had happened years ago, but still everybody remembered it. It's in the internet's collective memory, right? But the relevancy with which I think we did that campaign, that's what I think caused it to sort of snowball and get the numbers that it did. And at the same time, we also had quick time reactions to the Yes Madam thing that happened. I think the next day, immediately we put out a reel. But I think there was a lot of depth to that campaign and that insight, which is listen, blame all of the blunders that happen on the internet on bad sleep. And on the back of that, we created our moment marketing punts for that campaign. But if there was no depth to it, again, I'd be talking about this and nobody would know what the hell I'm talking about. Right. So like big plus one to what you said, Isha, which is, does it make sense for me to enter this, or am I just entering it because matlab sab log kar rahe to mujhe bhi karna hai?
Yeah, but if it does make sense, I do think there is a point of view that I'd like to bring, which is that speed does matter in a certain sense. What I mean by this is if you're like a week late to the party, especially like in certain categories, like I talk about, for us, it really matters. We do like a first day first show, and first day first shows happen before they come to, say, the Netflixes of the world or before they break on OTT, right? Now we've had right from Imtiaz Ali to like, Varun Dhavans of the world, Tiger Shroffs of the world actually sharing our content on their stories, which is like crores of earned media that wouldn't have happened if our take wasn't faster, because they've seen 500 people make a reel on that, and then that doesn't get the same amount of exponential reach. So I do believe that you have brand managers who say, Array, but I've taken 5 days to review this script 6 times. Now I'm giving you my sharpest take. It's just that it won't get that organic reach. So I do believe that speed does count. I think that the governance standards that every social brand has needs to be fundamentally redefined. If it's going to AVP, VP level to then greenlight every piece of content and then somebody's checking every tweet and twerk that you do, then you're fundamentally flawed as the engine. So then you need people who govern this, who have enough taste around your governance standards, predefined standards. I jump on these things, I jump on it in a way like this. Now my take, as long as it doesn't bring down my share price, is a take worth taking, and let me do it, right? So I think that that's where speed counts. And I think we do need to build our systems with a certain degree of being able to take that smart enough take with agility, because we know that 3 days late is actually meaningfully leaving 3x the organic reach on that. So how do you be sharp in a predefined time with the right governance is the game most people haven't cracked. Either they'll just go fast with a generic post, or they'll take 3 days and come up with something that they think is amazing, but it's their subjective understanding of amazing. It's not audience up. And I think that's where potentially one has to figure out, how do you build a system that can be fast, but at the same time, doesn't, leave that, if you're especially looking at moment in your category, to become a moat for the brand, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I
There's
do,
one thing.
I do second.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I'm so sorry. I do second Dhruv actually. Timing does matter, especially when moments are created on the internet, by the internet. You do have to move at a certain level of speed for sure. But is the initial speed requirement is to identify if that moment is going to have enough ammo for your conversation to happen, for your conversation to reel off of. If that's not going to happen, and if you're going to take time and be the 15th on the block to actually get there, it's really not going to do anything, and it's only going to look like a repetitive take on something that already all of these like 13 14 brands have done. And that is where we were earlier, right? जब ईद का पोस्ट बनता था और टॉपिकल ही था मोमेंट मार्केटिंग, और सब ईद का ही वो एक चांद लगा के वो पोस्ट बना रहे थे. That was the repetitive take. But now when like the internet is moving so fast and your creators are becoming moments, like that Suvam guy, that damn bro guy, when he's so big and your internet is talking about it, you being the 15th brand to do something with Suvam really does not get you much. You being the one of the first few, yes. When Duolingo comes in and does like Gange and Subham collab, that does get talked about, right? So speed does matter. I think what Dhruv said about like building efficiency in that system comes from how often is your team generally talking about really deep human insights. What are your usual conversations like? I remember when we were working with Shadi, Devesh was actually like his sister was getting married. A lot of that wedding season was happening, and somebody team में किसी ना किसी की शादी हो रही थी, and they all of these dulhan ka bhais were reacting to, oh fuck, like he was coming to meetings after like talking to mattress guys and tent walas and whatnot. So the general conversation was ki kitna kuch dulhan ka bhai kitna bhagta hai. So when Shadi.com came in, we already had a deep rooted insight that could then like move fast on the internet. Your take could be faster. When Shadi conversation is already happening on social media, our take was faster because we already had an insight in place. So yeah, there are these mechanisms to put in place to move faster. But yeah, I do second through 100%. There's times when speed matters like a whole lot.
I agree. I think speed or timeliness actually also gives you that space to enter the conversation, because there are times when someone else has said something that you would want to say, and that fits right into your zone. But because that is already taken that space,
Yeah.
and you don't want to come across as a second in line or a me too brand in that perspective. So, but like having said that, I mean, what Viren and Isha also mentioned, that if you don't have anything interesting to add to it, you don't have to force fit it, and you don't have to just enter for the sake of it.
Correct.
Even like from a speed perspective, from a social samosa perspective, also, I know that, and I think some of your brands might have been featured in what we do after like cricket matches, specifically, whether it's IPL, World Cup. I've seen that if we do curate a post which is right after the match, like the moment the last ball is played, that post works much better irrespective of what the content has. And at the same time, if I curate the best of the posts on that particular moment the next morning, it doesn't have as much credence, or it doesn't have as much engagement, so to say, because that moment is done. Like those 1 hour where people are waiting for the post match presentation and moment, like the celebration moment, is when they would quickly swap from the TV to Instagram, and that is it. And after that, like that is like a dying moment, and by the end of the next morning, it's almost done and dusted. The same thing, I think, like very recently, I feel what Fevicol had done with Sai Sudarshan, the piece that they did outside Narendra Modi Stadium is like pretty much in time in the zone. But doing a collab with him now, I don't know if they would have waited. They should have waited for this long to do this, to crack the right thing, or to crack even his availability since he's a cricketer. But otherwise, I think there has to be a balance and there has to be a system, as Dhruv said. So I'll come to the system piece. What are the three things that you think brand should do to put together a system which balances this speed versus the right to enter or the distinctiveness to add? And like, what's your, like, if you're talking to brand managers on this chat, what is it that you would tell them to make sure that these systems are in place?
Is that question to anybody?
To everyone, yeah.
Cool, I can go first. I mean, honestly, I think that, Isha's here, Viren has been on the brand side. He knows how these things are, tricky. I think what we've been able to do really well is really put down a governance charter after we've taken several bets and realized that, look, there has to be one person who's a commander in chief who has authority enough to take the decision and say go or no go, right? And I think that if you have that person in a partner or whether in-house, whoever it is, that person needs to own it without it going through several approval layers, right? And I think that that person and the layer between the creator and that person needs to be one WhatsApp message away, right? As long as they are clear, the representative of the person who owns the governance standards and the person who's actually doing the creation, right? You don't need 5 account managers in the middle. I'll tell you what the problem is. The problem is we will send something on Slack, then something on social media, then something which is a follow-up message. Then, oh no, so-and-so is in a meeting, so we need that person's approval. That person sees it, it's too dangerous. I need to take it to my boss. And when by the time that happens, the moment is dead, then they say you took the bet and then you got 4x lesser views. It didn't work. Guys, moment marketing doesn't work, right? And then that's a failure feedback loop that we've got in place. So I think that if you're designed to fail, you will fail. Right. So number one, if you program for everybody, you program for nobody. Know your niche, know your space, own an expert in your space with an expert voice who's the sharpest cultural voice in your space. Have them as a part of your team. Number two, the difference between that person and them needs to be a WhatsApp message. We're not in the fax era where we need 15 go-betweens and account management teams to communicate what somebody self and have, something get lost in Chinese whispers. Number three, if the decision can be taken by that one person, they own the outcomes and the governance standards, they can take the bet much faster. And I think that if it goes through, the minute you build in approval layer to approval, you're designed to fail. So don't even kid yourselves that you're designing something to succeed. I think that's how we've done it. And we've been able to get even the biggest startup brands to be governed like this. And that was a boardroom level discussion, right? So it happened over 6 months of us potentially working with them, proving success. When they realized they got their first million and thought it didn't happen with paid media, it was like magic. When those things happen, then people start believing and then they start backing you. They create the right structures for you. So you earn your right and then potentially also have these structures in place with the right people in place.
I think, sorry, if I could go next, I think just having a clear understanding of, listen, what content category is my brand in? Is it fashion? Is it humor? Is it film? Is it food? I think that intelligence has to be there on the brand manager's side, right?
Yeah.
Then I think the next P2 is whether you hire them in-house or they're part of an agency, you need to hire creators that are from that category, right? I am not going to hire comedy creators while I'm running a fashion brand account. I will look for Get Ready With Me. I will look for style creators. I will look for creators that naturally belong to the content category that I want to be a part of. Right? Because my P1 strategy is to look, sound, talk, act, and feel like how the category already sounds and talks, not to sound like a brand. The second thing is, I think you need to make those creators really fall in love with your brand, understand your brand ethos, understand what the brand wants to talk about, what's important, etc. And I'm not saying tell them ki bhai mahine mein 30 posts karne hai, earn media karna hai. I think that's not getting them to fall in love with your brand. That's the opposite. Then I think the riskiest part, which I think most brand managers don't like to do, is just give your creator team a free hand, because they really need to feel like the page is their page. They should not feel like the page is being run by my brand manager's feedback. The page is not being run by my legal team. The success or failure has to be theirs. Then only will you start noticing a delta in your numbers and your engagement, etc. Right? The nervousness that most brand managers do feel is, man, what if the blowback is bad? What if the blowback is bad? Guys, the internet has a memory of 2 days. 2 days, they'll be upset. third day they've forgotten, right? I think it's a very low risk, high reward thing to do, to just understand your category, hire creators from that category, give them a free hand, give them a goal, and like your mutual funds, check it once every 6 months. Because if you check it every day, you're going to lose your mind, right? Check your metrics once every couple of months, and then you will find sanity. Your team will find sanity. I think the best thing that I managed to do when I was at Swiggy was, we had this wonderful agency called Stonks, and I was like, "Bhai, tujhe jo karna hai kar page pe. Lekin I'm going to come back to you after 3 months and ask you, have we hit the numbers views wise or not?" Right? Trial error, and I think we've taken it to a beautiful place, and it was the most peaceful era of my life. Right? That to me should be the playbook. Just understand category, understand creators from category, give them a free hand, check in once in a while.
I think I couldn't agree more. The moment you give some freedom, the moment you get your creatives excited, you see the best work, right? Um, I think what Viren said about just make them fall in love with your brand is so important and so underrated, because every time then your brand wins, it's like a personal win for them, right? They'll flex it everywhere. They'll, like, so many times, even if I'm not responding, they'll call me immediately saying, Isha, we have to do this. It's so quick. And you just know that they're so happy when they've done something, right? So I think just enabling that culture is very important. And I think just one last thing I definitely want to bring in here is a lot of times people confuse brand safe with brand boring, right? We're not going to get anywhere by playing it safe. And I'm not saying the opposite of that is go rogue, go reckless. Of course not. Have some basic no-goes, right? And those can't be a list of 100 things. They'll have to be a list of maybe 5 things कि ये सब नहीं कर सकते हैं. That's about it. And rest, it's a big playing field. Go out there, do what you're doing. Monitor sentiment, of course. Don't go reckless. And I think it's very important to just feel so passionate about what you're doing. And I think if you do that, all the creators are also going to be responsible enough to know what the risks associated to it. So I think just creating that culture within that is the biggest and the most important bet one should take.
Yeah, actually, second everybody who's gone for me. I do think teams need to diversify, if not change, diversify. We have, like I said, like we work with legacy brands like Airtel, Adidas, where we've met brand managers who actually work with us as creative partners and who give us that agency and give my team the agency to actually do whatever they want to do. And we have this list already that Isha mentioned, and we do recognize it and keep it as important to not cross those lines. But otherwise, there is so much benefit in just giving your agency just some freeway, and they'll bring you just things that your team is actually not maybe thinking about. You are bogged down by so many leaderships and approvals and whatnot, so you're not really not spinning your head that much. Somebody else who does not have that weightage of just like carrying your brand and only your brand will just have that blank space to think about so many other things that you're not. So that helps. On the other side, on the agency side, we might be like a culture, a TNT, we might be agencies to other brands, but we are our own brands, right? There is a team here also that works on our own social media, which we try to keep very funny and witty and whatnot. There are times when Devesh, all of us have sat down in jams and approved ideas that, oh, okay, ye viral ja sakta hai. Kuch nahi chala hai usme se. And then there are times when we've not approved ideas. There are creative rooms that we are not allowed in anymore, and things come out of there and they fly. Like we did, Met Gala conversation was on. There was this AI creative that somebody in the team, like Atik, Rituja, we have this social media team, Aryan. So they put it together and put it up, and it went viral. And when it went viral is when we sat down to hack our brains of, okay, चल क्या रहा है अब, ये हुआ कैसे. अब हमें समझना पड़ रहा है कि ये हुआ कैसे, क्योंकि the team has so much knowledge of what is going on the internet that they are the best to decide what will actually work. Similarly, like on the brand side, when messy things happened, like Urvi on the team, she's so young, 6-7 years into the structure, and now in culture just killing it. She took the idea, she went there, got it shot with Messi, just pulled everything together, spoke to the brand manager, got everything approved. So you need to give your team, you need to trust your team and give them that space to actually do wonders, and it works more often than not. At least in my experience so far, it has.
Interesting perspective. I think the chat was asking for a bunch of questions. I don't have much time for that, but probably I'll seek one answer which could probably be a yes or a no. What does, like, do you guys think that moment marketing can drive long-term salience for a brand, or is just for short-term spikes? The chat, you can also answer if they can, like, if moment marketing can achieve long-term or short-term, and then probably we could wrap this up with one one piece of advice that you would leave everyone with. I know that you've given three pieces of advice otherwise, but like one closing thought, like one statement about the state of moment marketing currently, or how do you see it developing from now to the next year, till the next conversation?
I think on your question of long-term salience, right? I think predominantly it's all spikes, right? It's all just capturing some sort of attention in that moment. But I think if you're consistent with how you're responding, you can build some patterns, right? Like Viren spoke about Gadagiri, or perhaps what a Swiggy is building with Swiggy Billi Samaj, right? Or maybe Durex, will come in with some sort of an innuendo. So I think in the long term, you know that people will know कि ये brand इस पे पक्का कुछ they'll put out something, So I think you can build some patterns, maybe you can build some models that build some recall, but yeah, probably it's more spike driven, and consistency will sort of bring you a long term, some sort of recall.
Diksha, Viren, Dhruv, you all have something to add?
The question is whether it can create short-term spikes or long-term.
Yeah, whether it can build long-term salience or it's just for short-term spikes.
Sure. I mean, there's no one size fits all, but I think you have to decide what kind of brand you want to be. There are brands that have been successful doing it, like Oreo, Amul, and a few others. But I think really having a strong depth to your moment marketing so that it looks less random and more intentional, that's how you build, I think, long-term affinity and long-term recall. If your moment marketing looks different every single time you do it, then I think it's going to be a little more difficult for you to break past the funny, witty adjectives that then get tagged onto it.
I think, in fact, Viren, you had posted about this recently, about like who are you actually comparing yourself to, what are the markers, what not, right?
Right.
Yeah. So yeah. So when you're talking about things like that, like are you talking in the same language that your audience is talking? And are you talking about the same things that your audience is talking about? If you have captured that and you're double downing on that every time with like these spikes that Isha was mentioning, then you're actually speaking their language, and you're going to create so many more memories and so many more moments to just have long term impact. I do agree that the internet has now become like spikes of this, but then the consistency of spikes and the relatability of those spikes depends on identifying like who you're talking to, and if you are talking to them in the language that they understand. If that's happening, then 100% there can be long term impact out of it. If not, then you're, yeah, like the exclusivity pointer we were all speaking about earlier, then you're just like jumping onto everything that's available, and you're doing one-off thing that's going to exist for one and a half day on the internet. Nobody's going to remember it, and if they're going to remember the idea, they're not going to remember the brand, so which fails anyway, right? So yeah.
Yeah, so for me, I think that every brand in their own niche are having, or in their own category, are having 100 gazillion moments and consistently having them. I think you need to potentially be the people to own that share of voice in your space or become the authority in your space. It's not moment marketing in the generic sense. And I think if you can become that, you have to participate, be part of that, and not, it's not a product placement, or it's not a plugin, it's not native advertising, it's not performance marketing, and one confuses that very easily with the other, where they put their vacuum cleaner and say happy birthday. As I've said, it doesn't work like that. So I think it's 100% the only way you can win in an organic strategy, by participating on what are the trends and spikes in your space, and then becoming somebody who culturally owns that in your space. I also believe that brands have to be creators today. I mean, quite honestly, nobody beyond the point is looking at that logo. They're looking at that person who's representing you in an authentic way with a tremendous amount of, cadence. And then they are delivering that content at scale, right? So I told people to move away from calendars years ago. I said, we
Did we lose Dhruv?
He's back. He's back.
So we said, look, we are not going to give you calendars. We are not going to do this in this capacity. We are going to potentially try and own every big piece of information that is important and relevant today in your community, in your category, with creators who are going to front it. And these are micro creators who are very happy to become faces for the brands and build it like their own page because they truly care. They truly give a shit about what they're talking about in that space, right? So that's that. And finally, as a final takeaway, I would say that, look, today culture moves at the speed of content and creators, not at the speed of committees, right? And creative committees. So we need to fundamentally understand that. And if we can design in a way that potentially allows people to not, and talking about internet forgets in today's variant, I think Poonam Pandey wasn't forgotten in 2 days. So some shit can impact you in a big way, which is testament to maybe what you did with Poonam later.
I tactically did not speak about Flipkart OnlyFans on this call.
I don't know why this keeps happening, guys, but yeah. Apologies.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much for sparing time to do this. I think this is a lot of food for thought for me personally, and I think even the people who are watching this. I hope to engage with you all at some other point. Maybe do this not as a panel, as a round table. I don't know. I mean, I'll figure out a format and come back to you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Hitesh. Thanks, everyone. It was such a pleasure. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
Cheers.
thank you so much.
Yeah, over to you, Sneha.
Thank you, Rain, Isha, Dhruv, and Diksha for this meaningful conversation. And obviously, thank you, Hitesh, for taking us through it. Before we dive into the next session, for anyone who has joined us recently, we are also simulcasting this conference live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and X. And you can interact by tagging us or using hashtag SMLive. For the new joinees who might have missed it, here's another quick update from us at Social Samosa. Entries for SAMI, our flagship awards celebrating the best in social media marketing, are open now. We are also gearing up for 30 Under 30, where we celebrate the industry's brightest young talent. To stay updated on both, follow Social Samosa across our social media channels. Now, moving on. Imagine asking an AI for the best running shoes, best credit card, or the best restaurant nearby, and getting an answer before you've even opened a search result. That's a shift we are witnessing today. For years, brands have focused on climbing search rankings, but increasingly, consumers are turning to AI to tell them what to buy, where to eat, and which brand to choose, often without ever clicking through a website. In this session, when AI answers before your brand can, we'll explore how generative engine optimization is redefining brand discoverability and why visibility in the age of AI is about much more than ranking on a search page. Moderating this session, we have Karuna Sharma, Associate Editor of Social Samosa. And to help us navigate this newfound challenge, we have Gopa Kumar, co-founder and COO, The Blur, Kamaljit Saini, COO, Pure Tech Digital, Rishabh Mahindru, SVP, Client Success and Growth, AdLift India, and Nixon Castro, Global SVP, Earn and Marketplaces, Pivot Truths.
Hello, hi everyone. I'm Karuna. I am waiting for the panelists to join us. I am loving the conversation that is happening in the comment box. So lively and funny.
Hi, Karuna. Hi, everyone.
Hello, hi Rishabh.
Hey, Karuna. Hi, everyone.
Hi Nixon. Hello. Hello everyone.
Hi,
Hey,
Karuna.
hi,
Hi, everyone.
Kamalji.
Hey
Hi,
Kamaljeet. Hi. Has Gopa joined?
Yes, hi Karna. Hi.
Hey Gopa, hello, hi. Okay, now that the full panel is here, I'll just dive right in. And Rishabh has a hard stop at 3:30. Um, so we've been hosting SMLive for about 10 years now, and every single year the landscape throws a new curveball at us. And just when you think you have figured it out, the digital landscape, of course, changes again, right? There's always something new to unpack. And this year, of course, one of the biggest shifts we are seeing is how AI is changing discovery. And as Sneha mentioned rightly, that people are getting answers before they even visit websites or click on that blue link. So I want to start by understanding the fundamentals of GEO. And I'll start with you, Rishabh. You have spent over 15 years mastering SEO. So, what is this transition looking like for brands? The shift is moving from keywords to conversations. It's becoming more about ranking higher than being quoted. So, what is fundamentally changing, and what does it look for brands?
Thanks, Karuna. Thanks for having us here, first of all. So just to talk about what you are asking is, I don't see transition happening right now. I think it has already happened. People have moved towards searching a lot more in LLM versus now in other places. Earlier, like you said, blue links were everything where everybody wants to rank in first one, two, three, four, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth position. That's where the visibility was. Everybody used to say second page is where you hide the dead bodies,
Yeah.
and that's why nobody visits the page two, page three. But with LLMs, it is now sort of a authority game where how authoritative your brand is, your visibility in LLMs will be higher. Now it's become like a ecosystem. Earlier, what it used to happen was with the with brands was especially where every team was working in isolation. So there was a brand team who works on brand strategy. Then there is sort of a SEO team which works on SEO strategy. Then there was a PR team working on PR performance and things like that. Now you can't work in silos. Your internet has become your sort of a interface. That's the entire ecosystem you are playing with. You need to be consistently saying the same thing across all different channel wherever you are speaking, and that's how you basically also develop your sort of a authority. And then your clicks now will become sort of your change into a visibility matrix where people will look at visibility as a matrix when it comes to looking at performance for LLM or even the AI search answers, which is now part of the Google search as well with AI mode and AI overviews. Uh, that's the transition that we have seen, and we've been seeing this for a longer period of time. And I think now with so many LLM models, we also now see a couple of models that are coming on top with this, which I feel currently is being led by ChatGPT and Gemini are the two top models that predominantly are now driving, especially the general searches. Still, people do a lot of technical level searches at different other platform as well. But two platform that has come on top is your Gemini and LLM, where people do search very general queries before actually landing on to a website or do later on conversion. So yeah, like I said, transition has already happened rather than it's happening right now.
Yeah, as you rightly said, this transition has helped break those silos. And this is where I would like to bring in Gopa into the conversation. So, Rishabh highlighted the transition that has happened, and I want to understand what are those fundamentals that remain the same. So, brands have spent years building those pillars. So, what remains the same?
Interesting. Again, I think one while adding to what Rishabh is saying, I think the consumer journey has actually compressed now, right? Again, initially it used to be people used to go into the search engine and start looking for the product, and then it got listed, and then people used to start thinking, and then obviously moving into that direction. Now, obviously, I think the thing is that consumer is putting the question. There is a summary which comes in through the whatever LLM that you're looking at. Then there's the decision to be made, right? So from that perspective, yes, the journey has compressed, but the
Yeah.
fundamentals with regards to how brands operate, with regards to being trustworthy, being consistent, having very clarity, very clear clarity of communication with regards to what they're saying, being spread out and whatever that they're actually telling, and being present across. I think those remain uniform across, right? From that perspective, while AI might be actually getting information from multiple sources, but all of them, if you are actually remain consistent with regards to what you are actually trying to communicate, I think you'll get more citations and all of that as well. So from branding fundamentals have not changed. I think you need to be again be present across. I think that's what I would suggest or say.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, absolutely. It is all about visibility now. I would like to bring in Nixon into the conversation. In your experience, what makes an AI mention one brand over another? Because what's becoming really interesting is that AI is not just reading your website, as Rishabh also said. It's looking at Reddit reviews, YouTube content creators. Uh, so, what is that signal that matters the most right now?
See, I think Rishabh and Gopa have covered a lot of things, for whatever questions that you asked earlier. But see, you can't just tell AI that you are great, right? People have to say that for you, and whether you push it or on it, right? And as you said, AI doesn't just read your website, but reads what others say about you. And so you have to, as Gopa mentioned, you have to be very clear in all the communication that you put across, right? And you have to be consistently building, the credibility of your brand outside your walls across many other trusted sources, right? So you have to as I said, you have to be very clear, consistent, and make sure that whatever you talk outside your walls, it has to be positive in nature, right? It's a sentimental score that you have to build across multiple trusted sources.
Right. Consistency is absolutely important, Nixon. Kamaljeet, what does a healthy website look today? Because the website is working for humans as well as agents, right? And if it fails for agents and it works for humans, it is failing in distribution, right? That is a broken distribution channel. So, how do you build a website that is working well for human as well as AI?
I think a lot of the discussion right now, which is happening, keeping AI is in at the center stage. I believe it's not. Yes, website is going to be it's going to take a center stage when it comes to building that confidence score with respect to AI. I think there are a lot of fundamentals which have always been around with respect to technical aspects. We look at schemas, we look at markups, we look at the way content has been structured, whether it's really answering the real query rather than only looking at keywords. From all those angles, I think since 2015-16, when this hummingbird update had come, where everything was to do with conversational content, since then, if you see, a lot of things have been very pretty much streamlined on tech front. What AI really has done that is they ensured and forced every single brand to ensure that all those things which sometimes were taken as an optional, let's just do this, probably we'll take this up later, it requires a lot more technical technical architectural change. All of those things have to be done as on yesterday. So I believe technicalities have really taken a uh, you know major update in terms of how they have been taken or probably pushed in the P2, because typically brands would given the prominence to what its products are supposed to be about, what the marketing content has to be about. Technicalities were taken probably putting on the back burner. That has really taken a center stage, where you need to ensure that your website is not just only there for crawlers to index, but also AI to really understand the technicalities, understand given those signals through those schema markups, your content structures, your headings, etc. All of those have to be pretty much for AI to really index and ensure that those are being there all the time available. So you can't afford a single downtime as far as your technical aspects of websites are concerned.
Right, Kamaljeet. So it's less about stuffing keywords and more about making an
Definitely not, for
information
sure. Yes,
easy
yes.
to understand. Yeah.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah. Rishabh, because you have a hard stop, I will come back to you. And You are the SVP of client success, right?
Yeah.
How have you noticed client conversations shifting in the last 12 months?
First year into this LLMO or GEO or AEO, whatever you want to call it, first year into that wasn't, I would say a lot of CMOs weren't interested into hearing about it. But in last 1 year, especially, I would say last 8 to 10 months, where everybody wants to get a peek into this. And everybody wants to have a early mover advantage into AEO, GEO. But honestly, with the how these LLM models currently work or crawl the data from the web, it's not that straightforward like it used to be with SEO. You optimize your website, your technical health, and you start to see results immediately. But with LLM or GEO, you need to spend a lot of time in terms of building credibility. And that's what brand still needs to understand. So one quick example that maybe I would like to give, we were speaking to a at-home service brand out of India. They positioned themselves throughout the years as a affordable alternative to the bigger company. And that's how pretty much internet perceive them. So, and whenever anybody searches for them in LLM, you can't change that overnight. It's going to be still the affordable brand versus the other. That's where the catch comes in. You got to obviously pour in a lot of money to do a lot of digital PR and all those stuff to make sure the narrative changes, but obviously it doesn't happen overnight. And that's sort of one thing. Everybody wants to jump the ship and do good in LLM optimization or generative engine optimization, but people are currently not understanding the technicality of one part is obviously is still is the bigger portion, which is website. Google still drives a lot of clicks to each and every website. So people still need to spend time there. And which is also, I've seen brands not thinking about a lot. They're thinking, okay, now GEO is the next big thing. Let's start investing money towards there. But I still say that Google still drives decent amount of clicks to your website, which generate business for you. Still focus there, but part of your spend should also go towards GEO, where you start with a smaller set of prompts, because nobody right now also know what people are actually searching in LLM. We are only doing our own hypothesis and saying these are maybe the question that people might be searching, or working with the brand to figure out the right questions. And one thing that also need to understand, that people also do a lot of follow-up questions when it comes to LLM. They might have figured out two brands. These are two top life insurance companies that maybe you need to buy insurance from, but I can later on do a comparison between two as well. What's the claim ratio between the two, which is the better one? So a lot of follow-up questions that also happen, which people actually currently don't think about a lot. So it's important to put certain amount of your budgets towards AEO GEO, but currently still I would say focus should be a lot on SEO, which is going to be a good GEO in the future as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. Sorry to hijack that conversation, Karuna, but every briefing call that we have now with any CMO, the geo discussion takes the precedence over SEO, right? So that's the transition that we are looking at from the way the CMOs are looking at it, right? So but as Rishabh mentioned, we need to understand that there's enough business that can be driven by the SEO as well, the traditional search engines as well. But yeah, I mean, that's the transition that we are seeing in the way the CMOs are looking at it.
So the key is to just strike that balance, right? And
Absolutely.
Nixon, as the global SVP, where would you place India today on the GEO maturity curve? As Rishabh also pointed out, there is awareness, yes, and there is readiness as well. But where do you think we are on that adoption curve?
See, we are there. I mean, say if I have to score that on a scale of 10, then I would say we are still 6. We are not. I mean, the brands still have to kind of understand that a lot of people are going to ChatGPT and the publicities of the world and then searching for the brand. And one should understand that the consideration actually has gone upstream, right? It's the moment of influence that basically has changed, right? Earlier the moment was like I okay, let me Google and see what happens. Your brand shows up, and then you are kind of influenced. But today the moment has completely changed. You are like
Yeah.
let me chat GPT, and AI is already giving you that answer. So AI is controlling that consideration. Brands should definitely understand this and should adopt more, and kind of learn that Geo and the chat GPT engines are actually growing in the way they're giving the answers.
Yeah, absolutely. The conversation is moving from how do we rank on Google to why isn't ChatGPT mentioning my brand. Kamaljeet, have you seen a similar sentiment coming from clients?
Yes, I think that's been the talk of the town for last 15 odd months, where everything is, while as a marketer we would not really want to differentiate or distinguish between SEO, AEO, GEO, but because eventually we understand the ecosystem has always been there. Just the consolidation which has happened, and AA has really brought together the entire digital footprint, and gave you a one snapshot basis how you are being perceived on the digital as a medium. Whereas as of now, I think on the maturity curve perspective, especially, I believe we are still little, far from taking this as a consolidated effort, and still talking about, oh, we've been doing SEO, now let's just start putting some efforts on GEO. But nobody understands SEO has been the fundamental. GEO doesn't change those fundamentals. It's still the same. Where you got to be on a public platform, you got to be spoken about on some social media forum. Your presence on a great publication is really important for from a brand perspective. So what AI really has done is to try and gather that confidence of a brand, and put that in front of a user. However, I think sentiments are always there. Oh, something new has come. People are talking about it. How can we really miss on not talking about AE or GEO? It's just that understanding the extensivity of it to ensure that they are able to leverage it as well is something I think we are still probably few months far from really implementing it the way it should have been implemented, or it should be implemented. But yes, conversations are definitely there. Most of the brands that we talk to, they are always only talking about AE or GEO rather than only than what it used to be earlier.
Okay, understood. Gopa, which categories have been quick to adopt to this curve?
So, in our conversations as well as again generally has been I've been tracking this across as well. I think your global companies conglomerates have actually taken this pretty much head on, because again I think it is obviously coming from the top as well in terms of to start adopting it. So your all big FMCG players like your Unilever, P&Gs, and Mondelez and L'Oreal's of the world have actually taken this up very seriously, and they have obviously built dedicated teams who are actually working on these thing as well. Similarly, all your e-commerce players, be it Amazon, Flipkart, because obviously I think AI recommendations play a big role for them as well from an overall shopping scenario as well. So all e-commerce players are also looking at it. One of the categories which I feel are kind of slow, but I think will pick up are the automotive category, right? Again, so while I'm seeing and having conversations, let's say with Maruti's of the world or a Tata generally as well. But again, for them, still pure old search is what is actually guiding the overall thing. But again, I think in next 6 8 months, we'll see that adoption curve also going. It all depends on the brand curve or the entire which journey or what life cycle the brand is in. If they are kind of evolved and they are pretty much ahead of the curve, obviously they would want to actually be present here as well. And for the brands who are just starting out, for them it is an additional thing for them to actually get the fundamentals first and then move on to this is what I think everybody's prioritizing on as well. But yeah, your FMCG, e-commerce, automotive, fashion, all of those people categories have actually taken a head start on these categories.
So a typical reaction, how they exactly reacted to social media or any other technological
Following the same curve,
disruption.
yeah.
Okay, got it. Oh, okay. So this question is open for the panel. It's a question every marketer is eventually asking. ROI kitna hai? And if clicks matter less and AI is answering questions. So what metrics should marketers be keeping in mind? What metrics should we be measuring? How has that changed? Does share of voice still matter? So what does that look like?
I'll go first. So, see, now currently, if you ask me, a lot of brands and even the agencies, right, are tracking the brand mentions and the cited users, because those are the two most important parameters that are that a lot of brands actually want to look at, and most of the tools that we have seen shows this as the data. But apart from how they are appearing in AI generated answers for the category, they should also start looking at how they're being mentioned in the forums and communities, because in the buyers actually talk there, right? So the brand mentions and the cited URLs are the parameters that every brand should look at.
Yeah, I think on measurability front, it's too early to really, create a measurable ROI as such directly mapped to how AI has really impacted the business. Reason being, there is none of these, AI systems on have their own native analytical capabilities to really give you data which is close to the user behavior which is happening on the platform. So I think directionally numbers that we keep, typically refer to as citations, number of mentions, your AI share of voice. These are some of the hardcore metrics which are directional in nature as of now, because like I mentioned, there is no system which allows you to really, be close to those numbers, because none of the platforms are giving you this native information. Then we can also probably, as secondary metrics, we can also look at, share of conversations, etc. Your name is, mentioned. So these are few of the metrics which are directional in nature for us to begin with. But yes, important as we begin this journey towards ensuring that our brands are being measured correctly, and probably some sort of impact we can show against the business.
Also, again, while we are looking at AI citation share of voice and all of that, I think one point which needs to be kept in mind is that it keeps on changing, right? The model is rebuilding itself every now and then as well. So your visibility, for example, you've created some kind of visibility over 1 week, suddenly it is gone as well. So it is volatile from that perspective. So one needs to actually keep that in mind when you're actually creating these kind of frameworks, because we'll say that you would like to actually measure this frequently, but again, when you start measuring it frequently, it can happen that 1 month score is totally different from another month score, because obviously these models are constantly being worked upon and getting rebuilt as well. So one needs to keep in mind that parameter as well, or that with the caveat of whatever that we are trying to measure, when the team and the panelists will actually mention that as well.
Okay. The landscape itself is so dynamic that do you think it is more about testing and trial at this moment? And because the user behavior itself is so dynamic, as Kamalji mentioned.
I would not say test and trial, but I think it's gone beyond that for sure. Because again, I think the models and the entire ecosystem has evolved from that perspective. But yes, be ready to be flexible and adapt is what my thought is, or my recommendation would be. Because again, as I mentioned, it keeps on changing. So you need to keep on evolving with that particular and at that pace as well. So you need to be very consistent with whatever that you're doing, and don't expect things to change or to actually start reflecting on from day one as well. So it can keep on changing. So you need to be at it 24/7.
Yeah, fair, absolutely fair. So be patient and be flexible. So this brings me to the last question of the day. I would like to end with a quick roundup. So if we were to do the same panel in a year's time, what kind of trends would you expect? I'm sure the conversation will look very different in a year's time. What will that look like? If we can start with Nixon.
See, I think the use of the LLMs will grow, right? Uh, the the see, I think the usage of traditional search also will go down, because in it's the LLMs is going to be very quick, and it's going to give you answer also quick, and it's going to help you make decisions quicker as well. If the LLMs are going to change their models and going to give you the first party data, and it's going to be more volume based, and it's going to be easier for the brands also to kind of attribute their spends to what ROI they're going to get. So uh, I think it's the people are brands are going to focus more on geo, uh, in case the models are going to change in terms of the first party data and the volume that you can get.
Okay. What are your thoughts on that, Gopa? What do you think this conversation will look like in a year's time?
So obviously, I think geo will become more and more mainstream for sure. I think as brands are moving in as well and understanding the overall ecosystem, and more understanding is happening, I think that will become mainstream. So that conversations, for example, a year back, would have more become more mature, and people might be actually investing more and more on this particular thing. I think we will also move beyond the questions in terms of the current ecosystem, in terms of how many clicks did we get, how many views did we manage, to more in terms of where we part of the answer, right? So those are
Yeah.
the kind of questions that people would start actually having conversations about within the marketing circles, at least. And from there, it will stem from whatever that they're doing on the geo and AI, LLMs, and all of that as well. So yeah, that's what my two cents is.
Okay.
I think
Over to come. Yeah.
from what I've been really wanting, and somewhere being thinking, probably in 12 months down the line, we probably would be talking more about the measurability part of it, where we have a lot more stronger data and trigger points for us to really measure the impact of it, to really map the ROI, which currently right now is, like I mentioned, is very directional. So probably 12 months down the line, you might see a lot more data driven inputs which one can really feed in, see and understand the audience behavior on these platforms, the way right now we typically have it for Meta, or even for Google for that matter. So yes, I think measurability is going to be a key, and hoping that we get a lot more stronger data points for us to really leverage these platforms lot more, with lot more confidence than what we're currently doing it.
Yeah, I'm sure all marketers are going to be agreeing with that point. I think that's a great note to end this conversation on. Thank you so much for joining us. I could not have asked for a better panel. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Karuna.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Gopa, Kamaljeet, Rishabh, and Nixon for this insightful conversation. And thanks, Karuna, for guiding us through this session. Now, moving on, think about the last few AI generated posts you scrolled past. Can you remember which brands they belong to? Today, creating content has become much easier. A prompt, few seconds, and you're already all ready to publish. But when everyone has access to the same tools, are brands beginning to sound, look, and feel the same? This session asks whether the race to publish more is weakening what makes brands memorable in the first place, and how marketers can preserve distinctiveness in an increasingly AI driven content landscape. I would like to invite Tanya Sridhar, brand marketing and social media for Titan Eye Care, to moderate this session. Driving this conversation today, we have Manish Swami, co-founder and CCO, First AI Consultancy; Neha Bareja, head of marketing, ACO; Arman Rajdua, ex-social media and video lead, IMDb, and ex-editorial lead, YouTube and Netflix India; Samit Mohanty, group CCO, Yap; and Jay Mehta, brand and marketing leader, ex Maggie, Nescafe. Hello, Manish.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Over to you, Tanya.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome all of you, and thank you so much for the introduction. So, hello everyone, I'm Tanya Sridhar and I'm currently leading brand and social media for Titan I Plus, and I'm welcoming you all for a very interesting panel discussion today. I'll await for the others to join us too. Yeah, perfect. All right, so this time we're discussing on fast content, slow recall. Is AI making brands more forgettable? And here we'll be exploring whether AI driven content creation, while it enables a lot of speed and scale, is it also making harder for the brands to be able to have a distinctive identity in this pool of AI generated content? To have this conversation, thank you so much for all of you to join in and welcoming everyone. If you want to say hello to the audience.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Hi.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Okay,
Awesome.
some
So
known faces.
AI has made it, very easy for brands to be creating more content, more formats, and more adaptations as we go. But there's a larger question for marketers, so I'd like to start with Jay. Jay, if every brand can now move faster, produce more, what actually makes a brand memorable according to you?
So, thanks, Tanya. That's a good place to start from. Honestly, I think the fundamentals of what made a brand memorable haven't necessarily changed. I think it was true in the 1920s, and it continues to remain true. I think the means or the mediums that we have today are much more powerful than they were historically. And to distinguish that, we have to kind of pull those two questions apart: AI and what AI can do, and what builds brands. I think we're over a period of time, the more and more conversation, this is kind of merging these two subjects into one in terms of what AI has enabled us to do in terms of content creation. And it's absolutely phenomenal. I mean, the kind of content that we can put out and the speed at which that we can do it is leaps and bounds than even 12 months ago. But let's start with what makes a brand. And I think that's core of what brand building starts from, is really understanding what's your point of view, what's your brand's purpose, what's your brand's why. What's the consumer's insight? What is the consumer? How do you solve a problem in their lives? These are kind of the basic questions that we start from, which I have felt we may not be asking in that level of depth anymore, or that's changing slowly. So that's where core of brand building starts from. What's your consumer insight? What's the consumer doing today? How do you want that behavior to change? And what does your brand solve for that? Let that, and AI can help you in stress testing that idea, but it doesn't build it for you. And that's where your judgment still remains core to starting the process out. We'll get to AI, I'm sure, as the conversation progresses, but I think that's where the benefit of what AI is able to do is able to how it collapses that creative process. And I'm sure that'll be an exciting discussion as the conversation progresses.
Very, very well said, because at the end of the day, the core of making a brand is something that still remains the same, and it is something that should be sustained as and when we go. So thank you for that input, Jay. Arman, to you, I wanted to ask, a lot of social and digital content is now optimized for speed, views, and clicks primarily, and how many completion rates we can do when it comes to videos. So are we really measuring what travels in the feed, but missing what stays in the memory?
Okay. Firstly, thank you, Tanya and Team Social Samosa, for this very enlightening panel. I think we're standing on the shoulders of giants, everyone who's spoken before this. I think before starting out, I think it's very important to categorize that there are three things that AI is doing simultaneously. And for this conversation to be fruitful, it's important to not conflate the three into one. One is obviously discovery, which we spoke about in the last session. And I was reading a stat that around 70 to 80% of purchasing happens before actually anyone interacts with any brand content outside, through channels like WhatsApp, through communities like Reddit and AI tools. Second is creation, where we're talking about flattening of access and everyone has access. And third is actually a level of filtering that AI is doing as well. And I think something interesting I came across was that in the last, I would say, few months, 3 months or so, Instagram and Meta at large and Google put out announcements that they're using frameworks to actually use AI at scale to be able to promote content that is original, right? And for example, Google has this thing called the EEA framework, which stands for expertise, experience, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness, to be able to filter out all of the content that is original, and Meta is doing the same thing, that it's actually downvoting reposted content without adding any layer of originality to it. So I think for me, what I've been thinking about is that in the next 5 years, or even in the next 1 year, we're not going to be talking so much about, okay, which brand used more AI, which brand used less AI. I think it's almost going to be like, which brand used AI for what, and did it use it correctly? So I think that's going to be the crux of where sort of brand marketing leads. Because if you're looking at the three things that AI solves for, it's not going to be the same one size fits all for all three.
That's completely agreed. And when you mentioned the fact that now there is almost like a taxation that all these are giving, the fact that you've made something AI generated, it's almost that you're being taxed to not take it up live. But then there is also a parallel side to the fact that multiple brands are now having this opportunity to present their ideas. So there is a lot of endless variation of the same thought process that can be made because everyone has access to the similar tools. So now my question to Neha would be that in a pool where everyone has that access and they're creating sometimes even the thought process of it may not be directly copied but inspired from each other. So in that case, what is it that builds that memorability rather than just getting lost in the whole ecosystem, and then also a lot of misattribution happening in the whole process?
Thanks, Tanya, for this question. And I think very interesting panel, and the thoughts that both Jay and Arman had made a lot of sense as to what Jay said, right? The understanding the user persona, what's the problem, what is it that it solves for, kind of forms the base for how distinctive will you be. And therefore, when you are distinctive, when you have a creative tool that's different in messaging as compared to your other peers or in the same industry, that misattribution will go away. For example, if I were to take an example of insurance as a category, right? Since time immemorial, insurance had always played on the fear psychosis and the fact that, someone has passed away and there's no, money to take care of it. But at ACO, when we looked at it, the point was, okay, fine, what is it? The problem is universal, but how can we have the messaging told in a way which is distinctive, which is very different from what has been done earlier? And that's why we brought in elements of a Munna Bhai circuit or Saif Sara, which is distinctive in terms of distribution, in terms of messaging, and in terms of the creative tool. And that's why in a sea of sameness, we could still be different. And coming to the fact that today a lot of brands can produce a lot of stuff. Yes, earlier I think production used to be a filter because the cost was so obnoxiously high that some great ideas never saw the light of the day. Today, production is almost a level playing field, but still feel the uniqueness of idea and the way you tell it is still going to build that memory structure and memorability over a longer period of time.
That makes sense. Completely agreed. So that brings me to the next question. So there are certain guardrails that people are talking about. For instance, you mentioned, Neha mentioned about that they had certain uniqueness to their ideas, which something like an AI may or may not have been able to pull off, like a Munna Bhai circuit example that she mentioned. So, Sambit, to you, I want to ask this question: that what is it that, in your opinion, should never be outsourced to AI, so that it does not take away from your brand?
Hi, thank you for having me on the panel, Social Samosa, and I think very thought-provoking topic. What one shouldn't do, I think today we are in a world where, of course, I think as everyone else is expressing, we are in a world where, you know, AI ultimately is a tool which is available to everybody. Everyone is using it in different ways to express oneself, and increasingly the gap between idea and reality is closing thanks to AI. But I think what's happening today is that the industry is tempted to let the tool become the thought, right? So let's not forget that AI at the end of the day is a collaborator. So it can get you to good, but it can't go beyond that. So unlike human thinking, it can't imagine, it can't be fresh. So let's not fear it, but use it rather than letting it use us, right? I think ultimately creative is an expression of self, and what a brand needs to do is be as authentic as possible, right? And have that expression of self in the most authentic way possible. This is what I want to say. This is what I want to show. This is what I'm trying to build. And ultimately, creativity feeds on curiosity, instinct, exposure to different perspectives, feelings, and things that do not compute, if you know what I mean, right? And AI is all about computing. So the most valuable brands today sort of, they differentiate on craft, storytelling, design, which are all about how someone feels. And all these are driven by creativity versus computation, right? So when we think of AI, I think ultimately storytelling is at the heart of brand building. And I think human thinking needs to it should not be relegated to machine. I think I'll just give an example here of something I read some time back for Starbucks in Korea. And Korea is the largest Starbucks market after the US, right? So in May this year, what they did is they put out a very simple, innocent merchandise promotion called Tank Day, sorry. And this created a huge backlash across Korea because this was created using generative AI. The marketing team sort of put it together using generative AI. And they were oblivious to the historical significance of what Tank Day meant in Korea. So in the 1980s, there was a peaceful, protest by demonstrators, which was brutally crushed using tanks. And somehow the marketing team was completely unaware of this, and a simple Tumblr promotion led to their stock dropping, falling over a cliff. Starbucks brand equity was reduced to ashes. Cups were being broken on the street. And just that, I feel that, the point is that once you have a machine think for you and write for you, you are really cooked as a species, right? So we should not relinquish the journey of thinking. Otherwise, we are in the danger of what I call intellectual atrophy, that is all. We should look at it as a tool and use it rather than the other way around. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And thank you for that example. I think completely agreed with the fact that thinking should never be outsourced, no matter if it is an AI agent or anybody else. At the end of the day, if there is a brand guardrail or brand custodian, that sits with that same person. And they are the ones that are able to protect it to the strongest way possible. But looking at the very other extreme end, now going to Manish, I wanted to understand from your point of view, the opposite of that. What is it that you should definitely outsource to AI, and what is it that should now not be done without using AI at all? So that is how you should be.
Okay. So first of all, good evening, everyone, and thanks for having me, Hitesh and team. It's always a pleasure to be part of industry sessions and kind of share the knowledge that and give it back. So I've been a AI advocate for almost 3 years now. Even if you look at our company's name, it's called as First AI. Okay, and I've seen this a lot, that a lot of people on forums, there is this slight AI bashing happens. Okay, and I've been a creator for the last 25 years. Okay, my thought process is slightly different. Okay, what I feel is, see, we say, right, there is a sea of sameness, and people are creating kind of similar assets, content, whatever it is, right? Who are creating this? There are people who are writing. Okay, there are people who are saying, okay, I want to make like a Nike ad. I want to make a premium looking Apple ad, right? Or I want to kind of hop on a trending audio and give me something, right? So there are people who are writing it. Okay, it's not, yes, there are agents also, but even those agents are run by people. Okay, so okay, let me kind of come back to the question that you were saying, right? Yes, definitely the strategic thinking part, that the agency, the brand custodian, they should hold it dear to the heart. Okay, outsource if you still want to kind of do it, outsource the execution part of it. Okay, and I'll give you enough examples of how we are kind of helping brands do that. For example, typically, everybody on the panel, right? Like when we do like a full funnel campaign, what is the first asset? Okay, we want to have like a DVC, we want to have a TVC. and that is made in what? It's made in one language, right? Either Hindi or English. Or if it is very specifically for a certain region, we go and do that, right? I'll give an example. What we have done is we have made a tool called as Varnak.ai. Okay, sorry, a little shameless plug here. But what it does is, say I've used Amitabh Bachchan to kind of make a TVC. Okay, but I want the same TVC to be culturally sensitive to an audience sitting in Kerala. Okay, and mind you, it shouldn't look like, okay, it's a dubbed content. Okay, it should get a feel that, okay, Amitabh Bachchan is angry and he's speaking in Malayalam. Okay, so this is where you can use AI to kind of amplify. Okay, and I can do that sitting on the portal. I can upload, and within 7 minutes, my broadcast content is getting ready in any language. Okay, this is how we scale. And typically, I'm sure we understand this saying that, okay, creating unique content like this will take time. And of course, there is a huge cost involved, right? When we use AI to amplify things like this, we are benefiting the cost factor and the time factor back to the client. Okay, and of course, the big advantage of creating original content and reaching to masses. Okay, so to my belief, and this is how we treat. This is how we've been practicing within our teams. AI, or the group of AI agents, is your best friend who's a big production expert. Okay, who has like knowledge of like the best of the world. Use it to kind of make content which is almost like, we use this term internally a lot. Our content piece should look like, okay, it is invisible AI. Like, it shouldn't look like it's made in AI. It should look like, okay, it can easily pass off as something that has been done at a production value. So that is, this is how we look at it. And yeah, so.
Understood. Thank you so much for sharing the thoughts. So, what I'm gathering from all the conversation so far was the fact that the creation or the thinking process is something that should be kept to the people who are owning those brands. And then eventually scaling it up. For now, at least that's the use case, that as you scale it up, it is something that one should be looking at to get AI's help in that. But now, I would want you all to just put away your marketer hat and put on your consumer hat and try to see from that angle how, when you are, consuming that kind of a content which is borderline AI or real, when it's blurring those lines. What comes to your thoughts? What are the things that you feel at that time when you're consuming that content as a customer? It's open to anyone.
I'll go. I think for me, the biggest red flag as of now, and maybe that's a journey that I need to take as a consumer, is when there's a health product and an AI model is, or an AI putting it. Because then you're just taking away the lived experience, you're taking away the fact that whether it's true or false. I'm not saying that influencers all the time also say truth, but if it's a protein powder or if it's a skin product and there's an AI model saying it, that for me is a very big red flag. And as a consumer, I'm still very, very uncomfortable with that, because then I know it's a brand script being run by an AI influencer. Whereas with influencers, there's some sort of honesty that they still put, especially if you're working with macros and mega, and they just won't say a brand script anymore. At least we evolved from that stage over the last 2-3 years.
So that authenticity is something that pinches at that moment when you're making a decision consciously. Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, I would just like to add, actually, something comes to mind. If you all know of Varun Maya, who's actually created an AI avatar of himself and has been at the cutting edge of being able to do that. Something very interesting that I watched in one of his interviews was that he said that there are certain categories where a consumer wouldn't mind being spoken to with AI. So that's a in his particular example, it was news. So he's saying that news and FAQs and tutorials are something that people wouldn't mind as much in his experience, and the reception that he got basis the customers that he's been speaking to. So I think the way that I sort of think about this is that Actually, I divide it into a 2 by 2 matrix. And stick with me for a second. But imagine that on the y-axis, you're thinking about how useful is the information, so low to high. And on the x-axis, you're thinking about how much does it matter that a person has worked on this. Okay. So if you're looking at something that's high in usefulness, but doesn't matter as much, like the example that I just gave, FAQs, tutorials, where you're getting information, I would say AI is probably pretty good here. At the same time, low usefulness, and it doesn't matter that a human being has created something like captions or something like that. It adds to the clutter, but it doesn't matter. But at the same time, if you go to the top right, and you look at things like financial advice, you look at things like medical advice, as Neha said, these are things where human intervention is very important. So the insight coming from a human being and AI being used to augment what a human being has thought, and the core insight is where I think the sweet spot lies. And something at the bottom right, which probably it doesn't have high usefulness but still matters a lot, like I would say like a brand film, something like is your reason for being, um, something like that. Customers have been responding very negatively if it's been created by AI. So I think it's difficult to say that it's a one size fits all, that is AI okay for this content, is AI not okay for this content. I think it depends on these two variables primarily, and this could obviously evolve in the next 6 months with AI intervention and how things are changing, but this is how I sort of categorize it in my mind.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
If
I
I
think
may add
if I were to
here.
just add to what Arman said, again, a very interesting point about how AI is being used to dispense information to us. I think in the context of brand building, though, in the context of communication, I think if you were to use that lens to evaluate how AI operates, again, um, of course, I think as Manish also pointed out that some kind of AI bashing is happening. I think again, the idea is to look at it as a tool and to what end are you using that tool and how effectively are you using it to tell a story. I think from a creative perspective, that's what really matters. I recently saw this spec ad for I'm sure possibly most of you guys would have seen it, an ad which went viral, created by this American AI company called Runway. And it was made in the span of one afternoon by a single creative guy from idea to execution. And for a spec watch brand, I don't know if you remember this ad, using fast cuts. They just showed how you can turn back time using different watches, right? Uh, I'm not giving away anything here. You can Google it, runway spec watch ad. And what really stood out in this spec ad is not the craft. The craft has been taken care of by a tool, which is obviously AI. What stood out is the human imagination that stitched this idea together. That what if possibility, tied to a wristwatch and placed in different situations. So with AI, what you need to do is harness your imagination and creativity, and the craft is readily available to anyone who wants to create or manifest that idea into reality, right? So I think it's not like consumers are going to, or people are going to react negatively, even if it is something is very overtly AI. But if it catches your interest, if it engages you, and the storytelling is above par, then of course I think that's something that you would enjoy watching, and it's not something that you would mind even if it has been created by AI. That's the point I was making. Yeah.
So I'll just add here, so I'm sure, so we are creators here, right? But we are also consumers, right? And most of the time, in family groups, in colleagues, and different groups that we are in, right? There are content that keeps like populating, and then you have to educate them, saying that okay, this is not real, this is AI, right?
Yeah,
And every
true.
time this happens, right?
Yeah.
So as a consumer, I feel, and I think somebody also mentioned saying that when uh, as a brand, the consumer is expecting truth. Okay, please deliver. Tell them that okay, it is, and of course, ASCII's guidelines are there. How we create content and how we have to mention, right? It's like, of course, a beauty brand cannot boast, using AI characters and say that okay, this is the kind of deliver, this is the kind of solution my product is going to deliver, right? That will be that will be false information. But wherever I feel, and this, and I'm sure you guys will also agree, and even in the audience will agree, right? The kind of prototyping of ideas that used to happen like 4 years back versus what is happening right now. Okay, it has changed drastically. Like for example, we have delivered. Okay, now I'm just kind of openings. So there is a brand, okay, BFSI brand, and we are delivering 900 content pieces in a month as a retainer. Okay, now something like this would have been like, absolutely impossible. I would say, okay, I need 100-member team to kind of deliver this, right? But now that possibility is there. Okay, as long as you set your
Yeah. So the
guardrails.
scale for that is
Yeah,
definitely now.
yeah. So
Okay. Makes sense. And Jay, anything from you or Arman, since you've also raised it?
Yeah, so I'll pick up from Manish's point also, and I kind of change the subject a little bit towards how we are. Okay, let me answer the first question, which was, as a consumer, am I putting a filter? Is this AI versus not? I think over a period of time, I've become less and less sensitive to that, where I'm kind of okay with whether it's AI content or not AI content, because I think more and more the fact that you use it is kind of becoming okay. Yes, there was a period of time where brands got kind of called out for using AI in production, but it is the future. You might as well learn it while doing it as compared to doing it or finding out about it 12 to 18 months later. So the more brands kind of play with it today, kind of understand what's okay, what's not okay for your category, obviously. I think absolutely it's a fabulous tool that we need to get our hands on. For me, I think the part that gets interesting is, and just Manish had mentioned earlier, there's the tool that he has which does transcription, translations, and India is a country of many countries. So I mean, we've all worked in brands where language is such an important part of how you deliver that message. It's not just language, right? There is also visual cues. There is the person that says what they're going to be saying. So there's a lot of other sensory codes which kind of define how great content travels to different parts of the country. The part over here that is interesting, and it's something that for me as a brand builder also have to get comfortable with, is there is a judgment filter that still needs to be applied even after that translation has been completed. For example, to Sambit's point, if someone knew about Tank Day before the content went out, there was a human filter applied, that content most likely would not have gone out, because that's your fail safe. So in your journey of creating with AI, create systems in place where a human intervention goes ahead and sees what it is. For example, if the translation of Amitabh Bachchan takes place for Tamil Nadu, and maybe we've gotten a word wrong, AI may not be able to get that nuance, but someone who's a native speaker would absolutely be able to say, hey, that's not how we necessarily say it. Yes, it's technically correct. If you put it into Google Translate, it is what it will show you. But someone who speaks the language day in and day out, they'll be like, something's off. That's the part that I feel there is a beautiful amalgamation of human judgment and technological progress that we have to, as brand builders, start to get comfortable with. And it comes, and again, with everything that we've done in our life, the more you do it, the better you get at it.
Yeah.
So take that time to find what's your cadence, what's your rhythm, whether it's in brief writing and everything that comes as part of that process. I feel it's collapsed a large part of, as early days of brand management, I've written a brief maybe 50 times before my manager signed it off, right? And we've all had that. I've done it with my team, where you've spent that kind of time. So let's get that rigor right. AI can now, I get briefs. You spoke in the afternoon and 5 o'clock in the evening, the briefs on your table, which is great, right? But if you've been able to go through that process of stress testing the idea 50 times, which took me, let's say, a week 10 years ago, if that can happen over 3 hours, fabulous. Let's do that. But that rigor, still keep. And that is what differentiates a great brand versus just jumping on the bandwagon of, hey, this was made with AI. There was a point in time where this was made with AI was enough of a marketing pitch that we could put out campaigns and say, hey, we can.
This
That's
video
changing.
is fully made with AI as like the first title that people would put out.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's the part that as a brand manager. I think there is
Yeah.
value in how you create your briefs. And then on the agency side, and you know, Sampath and I have done this on campaigns where I think it collapses the speed between decision-making rounds. You get feedback, you can come back to the next meeting much faster than you were able to do it. It's easier for agencies to pitch the visual that they have thought through. It's easier for them to show it for us, where it was historically, let's say, you know, sketches, which would take much longer to do. Today, you can visualize an entire campaign and says, you know, it's kind of 80% there, but this is what we're thinking about. And it's so much, it's such a more enjoyable meeting to sit through, honestly, because the kind of conversation that you can have and you can actually debate it and kind of build off in that meeting itself. I think that's where the power of AI can be harnessed immensely.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Arman, over to you.
Yep, I actually wanted to add that I really resonate with what everyone here has said. I do think that um, like so I've been speaking to a lot of brands, a lot of CMOs, and they talk about, okay, what is the pipeline to be able to replace our marketing team with an AI tool? And I always tell them that this is the wrong question to ask, because for example, if like Jay or I were to use the same AI tool and we were to work with it to come to a final conclusion, our answers and what we have finally will be wildly different, right? And I think the way I think about it, and even my career at IMDb, Netflix, and all the other companies that I've worked at, it's been that there are almost three, I think, rules that have become sort of universal in brand building, the way I think about it. And these are all things that future marketeers, I think, or people who are trying to make a career in this profession should think about. And I think these fundamentals will not change. One is that first is the element of surprise. So the first S, being able to say that what is existing in your category and being able to say that how can I sort of twist that to say something new. And fundamentally, AI is something that cannot do that, because it is a historical flattening or an averaging of everything that has existed before that, right? So that is the first one, the surprise. Then the second is the specificity, and this is where I think India is so unique, that it's not one homogeneous market like, say, the US, etc. If, for example, if we were to have a single creator go to a village in Bihar to say something, the nuance that they'd be able to capture is something that probably an AI tool cannot do. So the second is specificity. And the third one that I think about is participation, where things like Spotify Wrapped that enable customers to be a part of the message that you're putting out, is these are the three skills that I think are essential and have been true throughout, like since as long as I can remember. And what's interesting is that this AI layer sort of augments and adds a layer on top of that, where I was reading a research paper that said there was a 325% increase in brands that get cited within AI tools which have third party mentions, right? So when we're saying participation, we are talking about, okay, other people are talking about my brand, which something is organically that we as marketeers and we as brand builders try to do, is something that the AI tools are actually augmenting. So it means that the 70 to 80%, participation in an AI tool being chosen and being discovered within a search result is something that our brand building sort of exercises sort of fuel. So I think the core of this that I completely agree with is that AI is an augmentation of our skills, but it cannot be, because the way I think about it is going to flatten, like the brands that have been bad at brand building are going to continue being bad at brand building, just with better tools. And the teams that have been good at brand building will continue to be good, probably at a larger scale. That's how I sort of think about it.
Nice, nicely put there. Thank you for that. One last question, I'll go around the whole, and basically, this is to understand if now, moving into this year, when it comes to AI versus how much you are producing in terms of authentic content, if I may say. So, how much percentage of your entire content that you're producing in a year, how much percentage would you now be producing, which is AI generated? So, I'll start with Neha.
I think the question no longer is the volumes. It's about the messaging and the creative, whether that warrants human being created by humans. As Arman was saying, that if it is an information which is very useful and then of course caters to a category like insurance or car buying where you need human persuasion or you need a lot more questions, and of course you have to use humans. And if all it does not matter who's saying it, then it can be AI, or you create a creative which does not matter whether being told by a human or AI. So for example, there's this whole Lionish, the creative that Acco had created, which was a lion and a fish, to talk about our life insurance. And we said life insurance should only do protection and not talk about protection and investment. So that messaging was so unique that it could have been told by an AI. But when we speak about the emotional aspect of it, of course, or about the cars and the fact that people need their anxiety points to be reduced, that's where the human comes in. So I don't think the question with any of us now is that, okay, 20% of content has to be non-AI versus 80% has to be AI. It just depends on the messaging, the context, and what is it that wants which tool, so to say.
All right. Anyone else? For Manish, what do you think? I know
Yes,
you will be.
I will.
Yes.
So, surprisingly, for us, yes, we do the regular, way of full funnel communications, where,
Mm.
all the top, your TVCs, all that is still happening. Okay. But the kind of, I would say, inquiries and conversations that is happening with brands, is about amplification. Okay. And I'm sure you guys know how Meta has kind of changed the overall, Andromeda, creatives, and how it is kind of overall changed, right? And because of things like this across funnels, okay, uh, we've been producing a lot of content. Yes, the main, I would say, the core concept is still, I would say, there are writers, there are creative directors, kind of building that. Okay, but the amplification is huge. Okay, huge. And I would say that, for us, for the last, 1 year of our existence as a company, almost 70% of the content that we've been building is AI. And the scale is also something that I would have never thought that, like this is something that as a creative you could deliver, right? So yeah, it's a lot of experiment, a lot of, and it's not only in the Gen AI aspect of things. It is also in the predictive. It is also in the analytics. Even dashboards, the kind of dashboard that we've been building. Imagine, we've just made a tool where 5,000 social media pages can be managed by one person sitting on a dashboard. Okay, now something like this, I would have never even thought, okay, exist hoga, but yeah, now we are kind of creating and building that. So,
So for Neha, it depends on context, and for Manish, it's already reached some 70%. Anything from you, Arman, Jay, and Sambit?
Yeah, I think one perfect analogy sort of comes to mind is if you all remember the Cadbury ad. Actually, it was an entire campaign that they had done with Shah Rukh Khan, where you get personalized sort of AI messages for each person, where he actually names your name. I think for me that has been the perfect mix, where you start with a foundation or a basis where something has been shot, where something has been captured, where thought has been sort of put down, and it has been sort of built on through AI. And in my own sort of practice, I try not to let these muscles atrophy as much as I can, to be able to start with pen and paper, write down ideas, and I recommend all the teams that I work with to do that as well. Start with the core insight, start with what you want to say, and then use AI sort of as a sparring partner to be able to say, okay, what has existed before this? Is there any research that you can bank on, any studies that have been done, and sort of then augment, as I've been saying, to be able to build and make better the core sort of instinct that's present. And I have been actively trying to not only be in the sort of rabbit hole of media, but being able to try to study more of sociology, economics, politics, being able to widen my sort of understanding of the world, and that sort of somewhere reflects in the content and the nuance that AI brings back to me. So that's how it's sort of been, that's been my recipe. Might change in the next 6 months, but that's been working.
Super.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Samvit, over to you guys for closing thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, again, if you were to sort of, bring it back to, I think I resonate with what Neha said. It is not about quantity, but it's about quality, right? Today we are anyways in a world where we are suffering from content indigestion. There is just so much of it that we don't know what to digest, what to consume. And of course, I mean, this is not to indulge in AI bashing, but again, as I said, how prudently are we using it to create work which touches people, which makes people smile or even shed a tear. I think those are the things that make a piece of work memorable or not, right? So the idea is not to generate more stuff more quickly, but to focus on how intelligently and how emotionally storytelling can be done. And I'm using the word storytelling again and again is because I think ultimately that's what is the key differentiator, right, in terms of creativity. Also, I think AI is something right now. Our conversations have been around how we have used it for production or in an audio-visual medium. But I also feel there is so much potential to do work which is outstanding in terms of what one could not have envisioned maybe even 4 5 years ago. For instance, to give a very recent example from this year's Grand Prix for outdoor in Cannes, it went to an idea called Field Barcode, and it's for an e-com giant called Mercado Livre in Brazil. So what they did is they took a football stadium, and one of the key matches, they instead of putting their logo all over the stadium, which is typically how brands would work, they mode the football pitch into a 100-meter scannable barcode, right? And anyone in the stands watching the match, or even on a TV broadcast, or even from a screenshot, could unlock a 25% discount by scanning that barcode, right? Now the thing is, AI-powered pattern recognition made this work from any angle, any distance. But AI wasn't the idea, right? It was the enabler. So what we shouldn't forget that the idea is a brand truth married to a cultural obsession. So how are we using it to interact with people, to engage with them? I think ultimately that's what matters. It's not about how quickly and how efficiently I'm just churning out stuff. That's it.
Absolutely. Over to you, Jay.
No, I'll pick off of this. 100%. With the panel here. So I think Neha and Samit, to that point, the question of how much content is made with AI today, I think change from that slight tweak to just saying, ki, what can we make with AI and what is right for AI? And all brands have a spectrum of content. It's not, we just don't make the emotional, beautiful big brand film. We also have, if you have a how-to video, an explainer video, there are a lot of stuff that you do as part of your full funnel when you're working on, or sorry, the infinity loops that you're working on for your brands today. From that point of view, absolutely. When you think of how-to video, can that be made much faster today with AI? Please do that. Absolutely. But your big, beautiful, emotional campaign still needs a lot of craft and guile, which is the place where use it to stress test the idea, but absolutely spend the money, the budget, the creative talent in being able to get that right. That's the spectrum of it. Make that decision. So going back to the judgment idea, make that decision for yourself where you use AI versus where you don't. And that will allow us as a creative field to still create beauty, which we do. And my question back to you, Tanya, thank you for moderating this for us. I think it's been a fruitful discussion. Titan's signature tune is such a powerful brand asset, right? But there was a creative brain that went behind crafting that. And that is what you remember, that even after so many years, that anytime you hear it, you don't even have to see the product. You know the brand, you know the product that's being spoken about. That beauty is something that as an industry we don't lose, but we absolutely use the tools that are with us available to kind of make the next Titan signature team that we were able to do.
Thank you so much. Could not have closed this better. And thank you everyone on the panel. It was amazing. I have taken a lot of mental notes. I'm sure all the participants have also taken copious notes. So thank you once again, Manish, Arman, Neha,
Thank you.
Jay.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.
See you.
Over to you next, Neha.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Manish, Sneha, Arman, Sambit, and Jay for the enlightening panel. And thank you, Tanya, for taking us through the session.
Thank you so much.
Hi, am I audible now? There was a time when creators were simply added to a campaign. Today, entire product launches, buying decisions, and cultural conversations can begin with a single creator's post. That's the shift brands are navigating today. Creators have become the new discovery engine, influencing not just what we buy, but how we think, engage, and participate in culture. Join us as we discuss how this evolution is reshaping media strategies and what it takes to build partnerships that go beyond one off collaborations. To help us drive this conversation, we have Pranali Taute, lead correspondent, Social Samosa. Along with that, I would like to welcome our panelists to join us on this virtual stage. Lakshmi Subramanian, CEO and co-founder, Green Room Network; Jag Chima, co-founder, iClicks Media; Abhishek Mehta, digital marketing lead, healthcare and foods Dabur; content creator Anmol Sachar; and content creator Payal Jain. Over to you, Pranali.
Thank you, Sneha. Um,
Hey everyone.
Hello. Yes, I can't see Pi. Okay. Hi, I see everyone has
Hi.
joined.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. This is Pranali, and it's great to have you all here. I think we can all agree that there has been massive growth in how marketers think about creators today. And I don't think that I'm exaggerating when I say massive, because when I joined A&M industry, I remember the conversations used to be, should we trust creators, or say, should we work with influencers? But today, clearly no one is asking those questions anymore. And the conversations have shifted from whether we should work with creators to how brands should work with creators. And I think that's exactly where I would like to begin. And Lakshmi, let me start with you. So, you've been building and observing the creator economy from inside for years now. So, please tell us what has changed and what happened over the last few years that made creators go from being viewed as an amplification layer, or say an add on, to becoming such a central part of the brand and media mix.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. So we literally used to have briefs that, we have this marketing message. This is the film we've made, and we want influencers to amplify it. Sometimes it's just resharing, but sometimes create like it resharing evolved into create a similar kind of a concept. If the concept is about friendship, the influencers create a concept about friendship and promote it on their social media handles, right? From then cut to where we are right now, I think we've come a long way in how we use influencers and creators. I think two important ways in which this has changed is that one, influencers actually influence. They influence consumers and buying decisions and the choices we make, how we dress up, how we look, what we eat, everything. A lot of things right now we follow based on kind of content we see on social media. The other thing is content creation itself. They are a huge content creation engine, and that in itself is something they're being used for and should be used for extensively. Like on the influence bit, right? It's now very well known that while there's traditional media, these influencers slash creators are far more influential than even celebrities or the regular traditional advertising. There have been studies and even brand case studies to prove this. While TV, outdoor, all of them, they have their role, but you need creator marketing in especially in categories where trends, trust, and social proof are mandatory for that brand to kind of exist and grow and sell even. So influencer marketing is kind of mandatory for that category entirely. And the second shift, like I said, is in content creation, where they understand. They're not just a reach mechanism to spread your message. They understand how to create content which are very specific to platforms, and they're able to kind of create content in a format which people actually want to engage with and share. So there's a lot more to creators, how what they bring to the table than they did about 8 to 10 years ago, which is when this kind of started off itself as an industry in India.
Yeah, that's a really interesting way to look at it. And I would actually love to hear from our creators on this. So, starting with you, Anmol, you've been creating content. And so, from where you sit, what has changed for you? When did you realize that brands weren't just approaching creators for reach, as Lakshmi said, but were starting to treat them as strategic partners?
Yeah, so when I started a decade ago, this was not even considered a full-time profession, you know. I had been asked by all my relatives कि ये सब तो ठीक है लेकिन काम क्या करते हो? So we started there, and slowly, as Lakshmi shared, and as we all know, we evolved with just starting off with amplification of messages. Eventually, once brands started understanding the impact that a content creator can actually have in terms of the decisions that people make, in terms of buying decisions, and across age groups, even my parents today, they'll be watching a reel and they'll show me, ये देख ये product हम लोग भी ले क्या, will it be good for our health, मतलब कोई supplement है कुछ है. So across categories and across age ranges, we've started seeing that creators really have a power to influence. Having said that, I also feel that uh, today campaigns are being designed in a different way. First, they were designed in a way that we have to spread this message, and in the end, we will add a creator to the mix. Now, the creator is always there since the start of the planning before the execution ever begins. So I think that
Right.
has been a big change that I have seen over the years. And I think because that's mainly because people are not waiting to waiting for ads to tell them that go and buy this, go and watch this. It's more like being seeing it on reels, discovering it through organic content where there is a integration and where the trust factor is very high. What a creator brings as opposed to a traditional advertisement or a billboard is the trust factor that they bring along with it, because the audience is seeing them day in and day out for a long period of time, seeing what they like, what they dislike, being vocal about things. So that trust really is the leverage that a creator brings.
Yeah, and so as you said, the role evolved of a creator, but so did the expectations from both creators as well as brands. And coming to you, Payal, did you feel that shift too? Like, was there a moment when you realized that your audience weren't just consuming content, but actually using it to make decisions, form opinions, and even shape culture?
I agree with it. Yes, there is a shift. First of all, hi everyone. Giving a gist
Yeah.
about my content. So, me and my sister, we create long form videos, and videos ka duration hota hai usually around 30 to 40 minute long videos. And we make comedy, entertainment videos. सो उसके बाद भी आज भी कमेंट आते हैं दी आप उससे भी लंबी वीडियो बनाओ। एंड इन टुडेज टाइम जहाँ पे अटेंशन स्पैन लोगों का इतना कम हो गया है विच इज गोल्ड, लेकिन ये सब चीजें ओवर टाइम ही आती हैं विद trust, practice, consistency. So before posting my video, every time I post this story on Instagram, I tell my audience कि अपने snacks के साथ ready रहना to watch it with your family. And they actually do it. So they get ready with the Maggie or popcorn or their simple lunch. And वो अपनी पूरी family के साथ देखते हैं video को. I feel कि ये जो चीज़ है वी ऑल्सो नेवर इमेजिन्ड कि लोग देखेंगे एंड हम लोग हर मंथ में एक ही वीडियो बनाते हैं सो दे वेट फॉर इट वी ऑल्सो स्टार्टेड मेकिंग लाइक फेस्टिवल वीडियोज। हमने कभी नहीं सोचा था कि लोगों के लिए दिवाली होली की वीडियो उनका खुद का सेलिब्रेशन का एक रिचुअल बन जाएगा। सो दिस क्रिएटर निस्मन, उसने एक वीडियो बनाया कि द थिंग्स दैट शी डज ऑन दिवाली एंड उसमें एक पॉइंट ये भी था शी वाज वाचिंग आर दिवाली वीडियो ऑन हर लैपटॉप। तो आई फील कि आप खुद से इमेजिन नहीं करते हो कि छोटी से छोटी चीजें जो हैं वो आपकी ऑडियंस को इन्फ्लुएंस कर देगी। फॉर एग्जाम्पल सो ये मेरी मदर ने मुझे काला धागा बांधा था and I never promoted this or talked about this or flaunted this in our videos. And फिर भी हर वीडियो के नीचे कमेंट आता है दी आपने जो शेल वाला ब्रेसलेट लिया है ना आप प्लीज उसका लिंक दे दो। सो इट्स लाइक कि आप खुद भी सेल नहीं कर रहे हो बट वो जो ट्रस्ट है आपकी ऑडियंस के साथ दे टेल मी कि आपको देख के मैंने पहनना स्टार्ट कर दिया है। सो आप कभी आई फील कि जब हम फोर्सफुली नहीं सेल कर रहे हैं अपनी वीडियो में कोई प्रोडक्ट तो वो बहुत ऑर्गेनिक और सीमलेस होता है एंड ऑडियंस वो अपने आप बाय करना चाहती है। तो आई जस्ट फील कि देर आर सो मेनी प्रोडक्ट्स जो हम लोगों ने विदाउट प्रमोटिंग ऑल्सो सेल करे हैं, लेकिन अगर हम ऑडियंस को जबरदस्ती बोलते हैं रिजिड पॉइंटर्स होते हैं एंड एक स्क्रिप्टेड प्रमोशन होता है तो ऑडियंस जो है बहुत स्मार्ट है, उसको पता चल जाता है कि यू आर प्रमोटिंग एंड दे अंडरस्टैंड ठीक है दिस इज योर वर्क बट दे माइट और माइट नॉट बाय। बट अगर वो ऑर्गेनिक होगा सीमलेस होगा तो आई फील दैट्स गोना बी अ विन विन फॉर द ब्रांड एंड फॉर द क्रिएटर।
एंड जितना ऑथेंटिक उतना अच्छा नो बराबर है वो तो
एग्जैक्टली
या। And this brings me to you, Jag. So, you tell me if creators are now central to the media mix, where do they create the most value for brands today? Like, as Payal said, they are building trust. So, are they building trust? Are they driving discovery? Or do brands just need to stop these, like, thinking of these as separate buckets?
So interesting insights from Anmol and Payal from a creator lens. So yes, I think brands, they don't necessarily just buy reach. They're buying the trust. They're buying the relationships that the creators have worked hard to create. And I find it quite interesting because I've been in this industry for a very, very long time, since before it was known as a creator economy. And so when Anmol mentions that, when he might have started creating content, his parents might have said, "Chalo, ye to theek hai, lekin kaam kya kar raha hai?" So I've seen this shift, and I've seen many creators go through that, and I still see it in some parts until the paycheck drops. But I think the focus is always got to be on the organic integration, the focus on not the number of views or the number of likes, but how many times have people shared it? What kind of comments are people getting? What kind of engagement do people get? Bail mentioned about the bracelet. She never promoted that. It wasn't something that she spoke about. Yet many people time and time again ask for this. So the answer to your question is that brands are understanding that creators are not just an addition, but they are the centerpiece. And I feel that this is what drives brands to do more longer term associations with creators as well, because that organic integration is not just a one-time thing. it can be for a longer period of time, just as that small bracelet example is there.
I actually
Yeah.
want to quickly add to that. So you asked if they're going to, they're useful for awareness or engagement or commerce or,
Mm-hmm.
all of the above. Really? So they actually do a lot more. There could be some of these plus 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 a lot more. If one of the important things that a lot of brands even tend to forget is that they're extremely useful to create a behavior or a habit that probably never existed. For example,
Mm.
it could be the Korean, 10-step skincare routine was not a thing about 3 years, I don't know, 3, 4 years back. It's now a part, if not 10, 6, 5, 3, 4, whatever, right? So the whole thing kind of came about, and influencers were a huge part of the process. It's become a habit, it's become a behavior right now. That's kind of taken, as a given. Another extremely important things also that some brands tend to overlook is brand loyalty. It's like it's extremely difficult to get brand loyalty right now for a brand. And most of the brand loyalty is built online, via communities and via engagement on their social pages and so on. And influencers are extremely useful. They're great catalysts to kind of enable and bring about this brand loyalty. If there are a few people I associate with a brand and who I trust the brand a lot more. I'm a lot more loyal to a brand if I know so and so people who I trust are using the brand, are vouching for it. So these are some things that brands tend to kind of overlook, and creators are extremely kind of instrumental in building a lot of these additional value adds, which most of the times you kind of don't even have other means to build.
Mhm. Of course. And we're no longer like looking at creators as just a channel. We're talking about creators as an entire ecosystem of influence. And I think this is like the great segue to bring Abhishek in this conversation. Abhishek, a lot of brands, including large FMCG ones, still think about creators in terms of campaign launches and like or say festive bursts. So, do you think brands have actually changed their mindset when it comes to creators? And shouldn't we be moving away from campaign led creator marketing to building long term partnerships?
I believe it's already happened. I mean, if you saw the Unilever's playbook where they actually rolled out, they're partnering with 3 lakh odd influencers, 50,000 in India, where they've increased the scale from 10,000 to 3 lakhs, right? It's a massive jump where they want these influencers to constantly create content for them, talk about their products. So I think that thing which used to be campaign centric or a particular occasion centric has changed. I can walk you through a couple of examples what we do at Dabur. One is Dabur Honey. Dabur Honey is a fitness product. You can of course top it up in a lot of dishes, but the first thing which we want to promote is weight management. So what we want a lot of people to do first thing in the morning with warm water with honey, and of course you can squeeze a lemon as well, and it has certain health benefits. We're partnered with an army of influencers, hundreds of nano influencers. What they do along with their daily vlogging, some of them are going to office, some of them going to create content, beauty tips, and all that. But apart from all this, first thing they do is to have warm water with honey. That's it. That's the brand recall, and then you would see a lot of content going out in the same manner. And that's how you sort of hack the algorithm, because you would see tens of hundreds of influencers doing the same thing. You would realize, okay, it's actually beneficial. A lot of people are doing it, and that would be without doing a paid push, asking influencers, tell the faida about the Dabur honey and all that. That would be forced, right? That Dabur is Dabur and honey is honey. You have to push the narrative. How does it fit in the life cycle of a lot of people, so that they can actually add it without being forced. The other thing we do is for our brand Gulabri. So Gulabri is Gulab Gel, right? And it's there the skincare regime, skincare routine, of course, like Lakshmi mentioned, Korean and all that. What we did is we sort of partnered with a lot of influencers here, and then we defined 5 p.m. or 10 p.m. particular time zone depending on the weather. Summers is different, winter is different. It's the same skincare, time. So before going to bed, you can actually apply rose water on your skin and go to bed, and that would hydrate your skin. So rather than pushing, the brand benefit and all that force, because that sort of stands out. And at least marketers are advertising prone now. Gen Z is advertising prone now. They have seen a lot of ads. Now they have seen a lot of content. They have seen creators promoting their favorite creators all of a sudden. कि ये खरीद ले यार, ये बढ़िया and all that, right? They also know. It has to be habit building. It has to be some sort of ritualization, which your product is part of that fits that criteria. If it's a one-off thing, say it's some sort of medication or uh, maybe a marker or an iPhone and all that, of course, you can go back and promote benefits because that's how you would sell a smartphone. But you won't be able to send FMCG product, with one of forceful, literally spamming the person. It should move that way, and I believe the industry is booming. People have realized that it should be an always-on activity rather than you doing one or two of campaigns throughout the year.
Absolutely. And what I understand is that the shift has like already changed from where brands are collaborating with influencers from one campaign to another and it has gone to from one campaign to building relationship that to a long term.
I would
And
just like to add one thing here.
Yeah.
So that also helps with how we as creators collaborate with a brand. When you do one campaign, you start to understand with the feedback of the audience with what worked well and with what didn't work well is that when you get three shots at sending out the same message, you can improve every time. Over time, you learn how to put across what the brand wants to in a way more effective manner, I'd say. And also, when the audience starts seeing something time after time, it becomes more of a signal to them, that this guy is doing it every day rather than a outright ad, as Abhishek was just saying.
Understood.
Basically, ये तो ये use करता ही है, right? Sort of builds trust. वो बन गया, right? And then you're sort of aligned कि हाँ ठीक है. He's not forcefully pushing me. ये खुद use करता है तो मैं तो कर ही सकता हूँ, right? I sort of follow him or her.
And trust building, I think, is what brands are looking for. So, like when brands are collaborating with influencers, where should brands draw the line between creative freedom and brand control? Because there are brands also have their own requirements, say messaging, claims, regulations, so on and so forth. So how do you preserve that authenticity without compromising brand objectives? And this is open for the entire panel.
So I've got a view on this. I think that brands should definitely control the accuracy and the compliance of the message. But the one thing that I've seen time and time again is when they try and control the storytelling aspect. And that becomes the problem because then it doesn't become authentic. And as we've discussed, the narrative here is that it has to be authentic. It should not look like an ad. It should not look like a paid promotion. The creator should believe in it. When that narrative is controlled from end to end, you'll always find that the result is definitely not as good as it would have been if it was completely organic and the creator had the freedom to be able to do it in their own style and way.
I
So,
kind of totally
I have a sort of counter on this. It depends how you are actually going to use the asset. The video or the final outcome I'm defining as asset here. If it's going to be an organic story which you want to do with collab with the creator, it's fine, right? You of course define do and don't, define certain guardrails, right? Do and don'ts are must, and then of course the creator has to do because you can't uh, brush your teeth and then climb Mount Everest, right? So there has to be creative boundaries, do and don't define what all can be done. But if you're planning to use this, you're going to buy the media, right? You're going to run this as an ad, or you're going to, push your D2C channel because what I've seen is a lot of D2C brands, they can't, hire Akshay Kumar or a Shah Rukh Khan for their brand. What they have done is, I think this is the way out these sort of guys identified, and a lot of big brands are following now. They've started partnering with a lot of creators, got these assets, and Kapiva is a one big good example, and then started promoting them as ads because the end of the day, you have to still drive the revenue, still drive the numbers. So if the expectations are that this asset, this video would be run as an ad, I think then the brand has liberty to make it more promotional, more direct, because the messaging has to be done in within 15, 20 seconds if it's going to be promoted on Instagram, or a 30-second if it's going to be on YouTube. So depending on what sort of objective you have, but that's something brand teams or brands in general should be clear from the day one that this is how I'm going to use this asset. If it's a recipe thing where I'm using my real juice and then a lot of people doing mix and match, trying mixology in a different way, then the creators have liberty, of course, within the certain guardrails. But if it's going to be a direct promotion where I would tell you that if you eat chawanprash, these are the three things it would help you and all that, it could be direct.
Understood. So it depends on the format and the objective also.
So I would just like to add. So I think in a general sense, I would say the brand should control the what and not the how. However, just like Abhishek was saying, if the uh, success metric is defined since the very start in the brand's mind and is communicated clearly to the creator that no, we are not looking at the maximum reach or discovery or reaching maximum eyeballs. What we want is that these points are communicated clearly because we are anyway going to run it as an ad. Our objective is that these points coming out of your mouth with your face, that becomes a different case. However, if in general you are looking at a successful campaign and you're looking at discovery as the KPI that is going to stand out, then if the brand starts controlling how, I feel it becomes a little counterproductive because the brand is paying the creator not only for the reach or the distribution, but for the understanding of what the audience that the creator has built and amassed over time, what they like and what they don't like, what's going to stop the scroll with them, what's going to resonate with them. So they're not, the brand is not paying us only for the distribution. It's for that relation we have with the audience that the content is being distributed to. However, there are exceptions, as Abhishek was saying. And I think if those are set straight at the very beginning, it becomes very clear for both parties.
I just also want to take off from what actually Abhishek said.
अपने हिसाब से वीडियो बनवा के आपसे नहीं बोलूंगा ना कि आपके रीच नंबर्स क्यों नहीं मिट रहे हैं. You're right. That doesn't make sense.
Absolutely, but Abhishek, from
You
my
know your
experience,
audience
that's
better than
happened.
anyone else.
No,
No,
absolutely,
I
but
actually wanted to say, Abhishek, for some other brands that we work with, which also run a lot of these as performance assets, right? After the creator content is created, it sometimes create a content, sometimes a little bit of creator content mixed with some trends and so on and so forth. What we've noticed is brand guardrails important. Sometimes the mandate is that it should come in the first 5-7 seconds. The brand should come right in the beginning so that you prevent the audience from missing out and so on. But having said all of that, if it's what we've noticed, even when you run ads, and this is data we have got from a few of them, is that only the engaging content still does well, even if you put money in it. If it's very adsy and very ad-like, if it does not have anything interesting in it, it may be a trend, maybe interesting hooks, maybe interesting content, delivery style, whatever. When you start off with that, content really doesn't work, and it has to be in the creator's original tone of voice. The moment it sounds scripted or like a VO, or like he's reading off a script, even paid content does not work. Like even when you boost that content or run it as ad, generally does not work. So I mean, ideal scenario, even when you run it as an ad, would be to I would say, like what we've seen based on our experience, is that you give a lot of guardrails and mandates, very very strict mandates, but let the creator produce it in their own voice, not control it right up to the last scripting or up to the T. That I believe is a good kind of a balance which does well.
Absolutely, but I believe entertainment can't be forced on all the categories. Say,
Sure,
I
yeah.
work in healthcare. Healthcare has to be serious content, serious informative content. It can work fun in my beauty business. It can work fun in my food business, but healthcare is serious, right? It's sacred. You're going to buy that product for your parents, your kids, your family. The serious messaging has to be delivered. Hooks, of course, has to be there after 3 seconds. But the other way to counter is to run your media on through place, so that you pay for entire video watched, rather than depending on just organic hooks to sort of engage audience for another 30-40 seconds. Make 15-20 second assets, push on through play. The buy time media would also matter here.
And what I understand is the more brands try to control creators, the less creator like the content becomes. But then again, it depends from product to product and the format that you're trying and the objective that you have in mind, right? And like I also want to understand from you, Payal, um, when you are creating content, does it like when you're collaborating with a brand, when does it become feeling, when does it start feeling like a script and not a collaboration?
First of all, everybody said all of those pointers. Somewhere I agree with them. So, when a brand comes to a creator's page, they are not coming just for an ad. I feel they are coming for the relationship that they have built with their audience. So it has to be their content because अगर brand को ad ही बनाना है, this is what I feel. Sometimes I feel like saying that to the brand, but I don't say that. But inside my head, I'm like, अगर इनको ad ही बनाना है, तो ये they can make a high production ad and put it on TV and run it. It might work with them, for them. But अगर वो किसी creator के page पर आके promotion करा रहे हैं, so it has to be real. It has to be like she said कि उनका खुद का tone होना चाहिए. It shouldn't look like very artsy. Although I create entertainment videos, तो उसमें easily content integrate हो सकता है. But there are brands who say कि white wall पर आप content बनाओ. So that is not relatable. Nobody in real life will stand in front of a white wall and talk to the other person. So it will not sell. Or they tell you कि particular color का top होना चाहिए. तो all of these things are a giveaway कि मतलब इसमें ad लगा हुआ है. It might work for beauty creators or some like maybe review जो content review करते हैं. It depends on the type of content you make. But for entertainment, I don't think this works. And sometimes brand understand that and sometimes they don't. There are times and sometimes brand don't want virality. They are fine with less views. They just want the content, which is fine with me. But there are times जब brand को चाहिए कि उनकी video viral भी हो, but उनको ये भी चाहिए कि within 5 seconds उनका brand का नाम आ जाए, product आ जाए. तो sometimes वो force लगता है, बहुत सारे pointers आ जाए, तो audience को पता चल जाता है. This is not just एक entertainment video नहीं है. This is a promotional video. एंड अगर वो एक कंटेंट होगा तो चलेगा एंड बीच में ऐड आएगा so it works with the audience also they because वो hook हो गए हैं उससे they are attached to the content and they are attached to the product as well. So I worked with L'Oreal and Mamaearth. Both are beauty brands. They reached out to us for our shorts channel which is entertainment channel. So हमने उनको कन्वे किया see we make entertainment videos and अगर हम listicle and content बनाएंगे which is like funny relatable तो it will work for you and the brand understood. You will not believe कि उस Mamaearth की वीडियो ने क्रॉस किया 70 million views. So this is a win-win for the brand. उन्होंने जो money invest किया है it will work for them as well and for the creator क्योंकि उसके भी views up ही गए हैं with the promotion. So this if brands understand कि एक जो I feel कि जो starting में ही objective है वो clear होना चाहिए कि हमें virality चाहिए या क्या and they should know कि वो किस type के creator को reach out कर रहे हैं कि वो कौन सा content बनाता है. It makes easier for both the parties to understand each other and get what they want in results.
Right. And I think Abhishek also mentioned कि जो भी objectives है वो day one से clear होने चाहिए between the brand and the creators. And also like the more a creator talks like a brand, the more audiences also understand. Anyway, this brings me to my next question because when we're talking about when creators sound like a brand, so this brings me to authenticity and trust. And these are actually something that brands are trying to build. But when they're trying to build this, are they actually measuring the right things? And Abhishek, perhaps I'll start with you first and then Jack can join in.
See, that's a excellent question because the creative freedom, right? Brand pushing their narrative, they're all the discussion. But at the end of the day, what a brand is measuring, that's most important for them because that would actually help them keep coming back to the same set of creators, where or similar sort of creator, whether the pilot or the experiment, they actually worked. I think one of the things we checked is started checking internally a lot of around for 4-5 parameters. First thing we check is hook rate. Hook rate could be because of negative or a positive hook. It could be, dosto, this is crazy. This is something I've discovered. It could be something, superlative or too much with jargon, anything hooked it, right? And it would hook the customer's K or the viewer's K. Let's see what is actually going to happen. You guys won't believe what I saw this, or this happened with me in Paris and all that. So that is one. But the second thing which we have started noticing is the completion rate. Hook is one, right? Of course, you got the customer's initial attention, right? They won't be scrolling, and then they would spend some time. How many are completed views? Because that's if the creator is organically fitting my brand in between, I'm not pushing them or him or her, to add within first 5 second, 10 second. I'm just leaving it on their understanding, how they understand their audience. Say they're fitting it between 20, 30 seconds. That's sort of the sweet spot where they build the narrative, the fun is actually built around, or the serious messaging, whatever the style they follow. And then after that, how many are actually people dropped? So say till 20 second is, people were loving it. 21 second, my brand came, and then the consumer retention dropped from say 100 to 20%, 30%. That's not a good metric for me. If the consumers are actually watching it, the 70-80% retention rate are there till the end of the video, that's sort of the retention rate, or the count kind of outcome I would expect if I'm giving creator the liberty. Their job is to make sure my message is getting delivered to the people we're targeting completely. Sale aata hi nahi aata, whether I run an ad, the consumer doesn't convert. These are multiple factors. It could be a discount thing, it could be availability thing, it could be number of e-commerce thing which are there. So they're more or less not responsible for that. But if they are a channel, are a channel which who are supposed to deliver my core communication, I would look at hook rate as well as video completion rate, and what is the retention rate after once my brand is mentioned. These two, three things I would monitor closely. If this works out, and of course try 3, 4, 5 sort of different side of communication. See which one works out for me. The way, how should I be telling my brand? Whether I should be telling at the 40th second or within the 10 second itself. That's something, an experiment we can continue doing and see which one works out, because you have to keep doing, do, undo all these stuff, and the creative world changes rapidly. Something which would go viral tonight, tomorrow we won't even know कि क्या exactly था, वो क्यों कर रहे थे सब लोग. So that's sort of, you have to keep changing, but retention rate, video completion rate, and hook rate are 3, 4 important metrics I would measure, along with the whether creators I would partner with, and then of course e-commerce is a different side of it, because that depends on number of factors.
Yes, over to you, Jag. Would you like to add anything? Where do you stand?
I agree. I think Abhishek mentioned all the important factors to measure the success. I think a lot of people don't realize the drop-off rates, and very early drop-offs, and that's the key. So ensuring that the timing and the engineering of the message is correct, that sometimes does involve trial and error. But this is directly connected with, of course, the freedom, the control, making sure that the message is going out in the right way from a brand perspective, but also the creator. But the real question normally is that, did this video change the behavior, as compared to any other videos that are going out? And I think that's where the consistency matters on how that content is produced. But certainly I agree with Abhishek. I think from a brand perspective, that's the right metrics to look at. The thing that some brands who might be new to influencer marketing would look at is how the needle moved for them. But that's also dependent on so many different variables. It could be something on the back end, could be the discounts, as Abhishek mentioned as well. And I've seen that many times. But the real success is, how many completed views were there.
Lakshmi, I would like to bring you in and understand your perspective on this.
See, I kind of completely agree with Abhishek on what he mentioned. So the hook rate and completion rates are stuff that we've started looking at, maybe in the recent past. But I would also say that it like I mean, it's also been discussed, but it has a lot to do with what goal you want to achieve, right? Sometimes your goal is just to create awareness. There's a new variant and I want you to know about it, and you use large influencers to kind of convey that. So in which case there are just simplistic reach views kind of numbers that kind of do the job. In some cases, you want to change behavior, create a ritual, create a habit, in which case there's probably a lot more understanding you need to have. In some cases, it's pure play end of funnel, bottom of funnel conversion, in which case there are, you measure clicks, you measure conversions itself a lot of time. And in many categories like, even food and fashion, influencers deliver sales. And a lot of D2C categories, they're really good at even conversions, last mile conversions. So I would say it depends entirely on what the objective is that the brand wants to achieve, and then you define your metrics based on those objectives. Just because reach and engagement kind of have become simplistic, you don't discount that either. But for some campaigns, that's probably very, very valuable, like I said, for building reach, or in some cases to get relevant engagement when you're trying to build a community for a particular brand and you're using influencers for it. Relevant community, relevant engagement, relevant conversation is something that influencers bring to the table, and that's something that can be measured. Relevant conversation, the sentiment of the conversations that happen in the comment section, and so on and so forth, are stuff that we measure to kind of figure out if there's been, it's moved the needle for them, like Jug mentioned. So I believe the way to look at it is there's a lot of metrics that we can look at, but yeah, the brand ideally, as the brand decides what is the goal that they want to achieve, we figure out what are the right metrics. In some case, we also kind of help figure out what are the right metrics that should be tracked for the brand, for them to be able to figure out if it actually worked, in case it's a pilot or if it's something they're trying out for the first time.
Of course, because engagement metrics also tells us that people have watched it, but they don't tell us necessarily whether people trusted or remembered or bought it.
Yeah, the
And
most common
yeah,
story is, for a celebrity, especially female celebrities or sports stars, male sports stars also. The comment is usually, no matter what they promote, the comment ends up being, "You're beautiful. You look amazing. I loved you in the movie." A lot of irrelevant comments tend to happen, which is what I meant by relevance of the comment is also a factor that sometimes gets looked at, depending again on what you want to achieve.
yeah, rightly said. And now we've spoken about trust, we've spoken about measurement and moving beyond campaigns. So I think that's a really good note to end the session on. Thank you so much for joining us today, and happy Social Media Day to you all.
Thank you.
Thank you
so
so
much.
much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lakshmi, Jug, Abhishek, Anmol, and Payal for this meaningful conversation. And thank you, Pranali, for guiding us through it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was lovely having you here.
Likewise.
As we arrive at our final panel of the day, let's end up looking at one of social media's fastest growing storytelling formats. A few years ago, we were binge watching entire seasons. Today, we are hooked on stories that unfold in just a minute or two and somehow still leave us waiting for the next episode. As audiences embrace bite sized episodic storytelling, brands are beginning to ask an important question. Can these short form stories do more than capture attention? In Microdrama Mega Recall, we'll explore whether microdramas can move beyond momentary engagement to build lasting brand recall, emotional connection, and cultural relevance. To lead this conversation, I'd like to invite our moderator, Milind Mathur Rajwani, Editor-in-Chief and Managing Partner at Social Samosa Network. Joining us in on this conversation, we have Darius Mehta, co-founder True Diamond, Ravindra Sarovar, creative producer, Short Break, Paper to Pixel Productions, Pratap Jain, founder and CEO Chanajor, Seema Walia, Senior Director, Agency Business, Government Business, Microdrama Business, ShareChat, Moj, and Quick TV, and content creator Sejal Kumar. Over to you, Mrinal. Mrinal, your mic is not on.
Sorry, I've made this mistake in the beginning of the session also, and I've made this mistake again. So, yeah, I think this is still going to be part of how we function on Zoom. Uh, okay, so we do have different voices here. Unfortunately, Darius had to um, step out because of the last minute changes and commitments, but we do have a full house panel here, and I'm sure we're gonna get such it's going to be an entertaining and amazing session, and I'm hoping that there is going to be an episode 2 of this. uh, so coming to the topic, for years, short form video was treated as something which is of a 3-second attention, and now we're moving towards episode 2 and episode 3 and episodic options. From quick hooks, quick laughs, quick trends, from quick exits, we're now waiting what's going to happen next. We're going to stick around. We're talking about staying for a long. Now we talk about recurring characters, we talk about emotional stakes there, we talk about cliffhangers, proper storytelling, which is happening in a minute or minute and a half. Uh, my point here is in the era of short format, can short form stories build long term brand retention? And I have panel. The panel consists of Seema, and Pratap both represents platforms that talk about that thrive on such micro drama stories. I do have Sejal who started making 1 minute drama from such a like time from so many years now, when even before micro dramas became mainstream. And I do have Ravindra from the who's making Shorts Break a popular channel on Instagram. Yeah, so I want to begin with Seema and talk about what role that platform plays. How are you seeing that platforms are latching on this trend and convinced that this is just not a trend, it's going to stay along?
Hi. Thank you so much. Love the panel here and love that we have a creator amongst us, because they are the ones who keep us going. I mean, there is no argument that whether this is a trend and whether it will stay or not, because it's already here. It's already become part of our lives. We have crossed a stage wherein, we could have debated whether this will work for us or not, because like I said that as of yesterday it is already there as part of our lives. The big difference, and we as platforms, because we have share chat, Moj and quick TV, we have seen it all. We started with a short form video content becoming a part of everybody's life via share chat and Moj, and now we are seeing episodic or the micro dramas doing the same. There is a big difference, that it has bring in our lives, and why platforms are important is, see, short form videos, when they were curated, they were more of a, they were built up on sporadic topics, and that is why you would have a lot of passive scrolling by the users. Like for anything between 30 minutes to an hour, you will go on that particular platform and you will keep scrolling up and down looking for a content, which could excite you. Micro dramas, on the other hand, are built up in a way that, the audience needs to be and would be kept hooked up and would be there for a longer retention time. Uh, they're more, they evoke that emotional angle. There is more relatability. Um, People see the characters which they were used to seeing on a TV or a OTT, but they are able to consume it within a 45 minutes window. So from the time I reach Gurgaon to a Dwarka, or one part of Bangalore to the other part of Bangalore, in about 45 minutes of commute time, I can easily complete a story. And platform today is extremely relevant, because platform today is responsible for the kind of content I'm delivering to the user. You know, so I mean, yeah, I mean, I think so. The debate is no longer there. It's already part of us. Just to give you some example, we have the quick TV originals like Mere Teen Shehzade and Ghar Wapsi. Both of these shows have already garnered over 200 million views. While there are others like, and I can give you a long list, like there's Aakhri Rasta, there is Papa Meri Jaan, there is Fir Bhi Tumko Chahunga, and all these titles are anything between 100 to 200 million views. So you can just imagine the kind of, the hangover the user has on each of the titles that is running on Quick TV and Watch.
Okay, so for you, it's going to stay. It's not just a trend. It's a phenomena that's going to stay. It's a habit that we have. It's
The habit
born
which is
out.
already there.
It's born out of a habit.
Yeah, yeah,
If
yeah.
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 Pratap, while we're talking about platform, Chana Jor is primarily it's an ecosystem on short form storytelling. So, do you think microdramas? Do you think microdramas represent a new entertainment category, or it's just an extension and an evolution of the content creation that was happening?
See, what I tell you that content is always there, was there, is there, and will be there. Okay, the format can be changed. So since like ages, okay, Mahabharata is also a content, right? If I say Ramayana is also a content. So since that time, people are seeing the content. Just the form is getting changed, right? We have seen our mythology. We have seen dramas like Shakespeare. Shakespeare was a great content creator, right? So in the era of 1500 and 1600 kind of thing, that time we are seeing the content, right? In the modern age we talk about. Okay, and then came movies, then television, then theaters, and then OTTs, social media, and now microdrama. So it's just people want entertainment, they want content, and how they consume it is just how we decide them to watch the content. What platform or what synergy we bring for them to publish the content is what we are doing right now. So content will be there in any form. So microdrama is a good thing. People are liking it. I don't disagree on this, but these are a form of content, nothing else in that.
It's amazing. I think.
People are still watching 3 hours, 4 hours movie like Dhurandhar 2, yeah, right? And people are watching microdramas, right? So it's all people choice. Okay.
Yeah, so I guess it's all about format, how people want to consume. It's the content that they consume. If it's a good content, people are going to consume in a long form or a short form, as a microdrama, as a reel, as a video, anything, in any format, it's going to
Any
be.
format. I remember when I was a child, my mom used to read a novel daily in the night where
Hmm.
Prakash Sharma and all these novelists were there, right? So she could not sleep without reading a novel, okay? तो आधा घंटा पहले वो नोवेल पढ़ती थी उसके बाद वो सोती थी राइट तो दैट वाज आल्सो कंटेंट सो सर फॉर्म इज चेंजिंग नथिंग एल्स
Amazing, amazing. Moving from the microdrama existence, I would want to move to Sejal and Ravindran and want to talk about the very idea of creating a microdrama. Uh, Sejal, you are a content creator and you have worked and created reels that are like believed to an extent that you have to create something which is quick, which is short, which is engaging, and has to stay around, kind of like because people are or make content that goes viral and gets garner reach and real views and everything else. When you think for a microdrama, what changes for you? How do you think that because microdrama needs a storytelling, microdrama needs a cliffhanger, it needs like it needs you to bring someone to not just to one video but for another one, you depend on multiple videos, especially if you are on a platform like Shorts or Instagram like that. So how what changes for you? How do you think that? How do you approach it?
Hi everyone, thanks for having me. This is really cool. And it's awesome that we're talking about microdramas on a platform. It's great to hear from the other speakers as well. And I do relate with what Seema and Pratap said as well. And I think what Pratap said was pretty interesting how content just evolves over the time. And I can speak for the same because I've been a creator for 10 plus years now, and I started on YouTube. So storytelling was very different for me at that point because I was making 10 to 15-minute long videos week on week, sometimes twice a week. So the writing for those type of videos is very different, and depending on the type of topics that I was hitting as well. And moving on to this endeavor with microdramas, which personally for me started 3 years ago. Again, it was just conceived with just I just want to create something like a mini Netflix on Instagram and challenge myself as a creator. So the writing and the creation for it the way I approach it is how, say, like a mini TVF would approach it. That's how I put my team together for that. To create these type of videos, आप खुद भी बना सकते हो, and I think that's totally possible. But I like to do it with like a team involved because I've done over 90 episodes so far, and I'm releasing a series as well, which is an 8-part series like right now. So with some of the episodes, of course, I did it myself. With some, I put a team together. However, the writing that we approach, the way we approach writing for this is that it has to be very pacey. So the kind of rules that I employed with doing YouTube videos kind of go out of the window with doing something like this because एक dialogue has to make sense and each word has to feel like it is worth the audience's time. And even the way we plan our shots have to feel very engaging. Ki one thing should lead to the other, or based on like viewing trends that we try to figure out कि अच्छा लोग ऐसी चीजें देख रहे हैं, let's try this. And of course, there are many hits and misses. And with episodic content that this is the second series that I've full-fledgedly produced and releasing myself now. It's been pretty interesting because start with a hook, end with a kind of a cliffhanger that goes into the next episode. So the writing has to be very tight, and it's a new challenge. It's really fun. Um, and while it may seem it's just a 1 minute video, even lesser sometimes, but um, and I think Seema will also attest to this, it is a full-fledged thing that you have to figure out and produce. Like, I literally got a cast on board to play all the different characters and stuff. So it's a really fresh challenge for a creator, especially for someone like me.
True that. I completely second this thought.
Yeah, I think it requires from scripting to cast to production because these are majorly high produced videos and they're not just something that you're shooting at your home or in the lane or anywhere else. That's why I would want Ravindra to bring in his point of view that how does storytelling, how does writing for, or how does producing a micro drama change differ from producing a reel or a video?
Sure. Actually, I found this format is very interesting because अभी हम बहुत सालों से मतलब 4-5 सालों से कंटिन्यूअसली शॉर्ट फॉर्म कंटेंट बना रहे हैं, इंस्टाग्राम पे बना रहे हैं, यूट्यूब पे बना रहे हैं और काफ़ी सारे अलग अलग चैनल्स भी है तो लॉन्ग फॉर्मेट में भी काम कर चुके हैं जैसे कि स्केच वीडियोस बनाए, वेब सीरीज बनाए लॉन्ग और अभी और शॉर्ट स्केचेस भी बनाए जैसे कि हमारा काम वाली बाई जो आईपी है काफ़ी फेमस हो गया था तो हमने ऑलरेडी उसके भी 100 एपिसोड्स वगैरह बना चुके हैं मतलब पिछले 3 सालों में वगैरह मतलब जब माइक्रो ड्रामा था भी नहीं पर इट्स लाइक इन बीट्स एंड पीसेस मतलब ऐसा नहीं था कि कंटिन्यू स्टोरी पर मुझे इसमें ये लगता है कि अभी एक अच्छी चीज़ हो गई है कि हम अच्छा कैरेक्टर बिल्ड करके उसको एक यूनिवर्स उसका एक यूनिवर्स बना के उसको उसकी स्टोरी अच्छे से बता सकते हैं पूरा थ्रू आउट नहीं तो फिर हर शॉट एक अलग स्टोरी लेके आता है और फिर वो खत्म हो जाता है फिर नया शॉट अलग तो अभी माइक्रो ड्रामा की वजह से ये पॉसिबल है कि हम थोड़ा फिल्म जैसा या फिर लॉन्ग फॉर्मेट कंटेंट जैसा सोच सके क्योंकि लॉन्ग फॉर्मेट कंटेंट में लोग उतने मतलब अटेंशन स्पैन का प्रॉब्लम हो जाता है कि लोग 15 मिनट का वीडियो देख के ही ओपन नहीं करते तो वो प्रॉब्लम यहाँ पे नहीं है क्योंकि ये अपने फीड में आएगा और लोग स्क्रॉल करते तुरंत तो अगर छोटे पीसेस में ये स्टोरी हम बताते हैं उस कैरेक्टर के थ्रू और कैरेक्टर के इमोशंस के साथ अगर लोग हुक हो जाते हैं तो पूरा माइक्रो ड्रामा लोग देखेंगे और मुझे वो बहुत अच्छा लगता है इसलिए कि अभी हम बड़ी स्टोरीज शॉर्ट फॉर्म में बता पाएंगे इस फॉर्मेट की वजह से तो आई एम वेरी एक्साइटेड फॉर दिस
I know काफ़ी टाइम ये तो होता है कि that I come across a video and it's either a first second part or a first part and then it's like then I have to go back and I have to look for and I'm so compelled that I have to spend time on that creator or that flat channel that okay I have to go and look at part 1 part 2 part 3 part 4 because I need a completion and I think that's how an audience mind also work that if you are engaged to one you have that urge to complete the story you can't stick and I think it's a great way of engagement for any particular channel. Yeah. So while we were also talking about, we spoke about originals, we spoke about content being the king in all sense. I also would want to understand because uh, where does where should the brand live in a micro drama? Is it so? My question here is because is it too soon? Where do you think that visibility of a brand should arrive? Should it be too soon? What happens if a brand, if a story is remembered, it connects with the audience, but brand gets missed or brands get forgotten?
ओके, नो नो, आई थिंक एक्चुअली अगर हम अच्छी स्टोरी बनाते हैं, कोई भी ब्रांड का ब्रीफ हो कि ये स्टोरी पसंद आई है उन्हें, या फिर जो भी सिनॉप्सिस है वो पसंद आया है, तो अगर हम स्टोरी बहुत अच्छी बनाती है और ऑडियंस उस कैरेक्टर, उस स्टोरी के साथ अगर कनेक्ट होते हैं, उनको याद रह जाता है वो कैरेक्टर, वो सीरीज खत्म होने के बाद भी, तो फॉर श्योर कि वो ब्रांड भी याद रहेगा। तो मुझे ऐसा नहीं लगता है कि अगर स्टोरी पसंद आई तो ब्रांड नहीं याद रहेगा, ऐसा नहीं है। तो मोस्ट मोटिव तो यही होना चाहिए क्रिएटर का कि अच्छे से एंगेजिंग स्टोरी बनाई जाए जो हुक करे ऑडियंस को, ऑडियंस को याद रह जाए वो कैरेक्टर, वो स्टोरी, तो ऑब्वियसली ब्रांड को हेल्प हो जाएगा। या
Also, I like to add to this as well. In our current series, जो हम अभी release कर रहे हैं, so we have a brand on board, and it's been a very interesting experience working with them. And I would say that the way that I would structure a brand deal for a series would be to have them as a title sponsor and have their name across many episodes. So that itself adds memorability for that specific brand. And we did a few subtle integrations within the episodes as well. They're very, very subtle, but also did some content outside of the series, which I think is also a good idea. Ki, say if it's a makeup brand, like that character in character can get ready for their part or something like that. And I think एक वो थोड़ा universe भी build हो जाता है. So I understand from a brand perspective, they want content that's very हमें ऐसे चाहिए, and which is fair as well. So we can also figure out a way कि हमारी story remains true to its story and then have some stuff outside in the universe too, or Instagram stories or stuff like that can help with both sides.
Pratap, you wanted to add something to this.
What I want to say here is a brand come to micro drama thing, okay? So the product of the brand should be blended well in the story. So the brand should become a character in the story, okay? It will be remembered. If it just come, we show some brand and it goes, okay, then it will not be remembered because people remember the characters, they remember the story, they will not remember the brand. So it should mingle well. It should become a part of the story of the narrative. Okay, then it would benefit them.
Okay. I would also want to understand from Pratap and Seema that what were the basically, I mean, moving a little bit, let's going behind in time, and I want to understand what were the initial signals that made you believe that microdrama is going to work. The reason I'm asking is because if we believe it in so much, uh, and in the time making a bet on a microdrama in the times when attention is reducing, what convinced you? What were the initial signals for the industry like this?
See, what I tell you that even for me, if I go to any OTT platform, if I see that this web series has 10, 15, 20 episodes, and each episode is like 1 hour length, okay, then I just skip the entire series because I don't have that much time to give to that web series, okay. So if any story finish within 50 minutes, 60 minutes, 1 hour, maximum a movie time, okay, 2 hours, then I can give my time and attention to that content. Otherwise, I will clearly skip it and I will not watch it. So this is what people are struggling with the time, okay, and you can see that people are also spending time on social media, right? Apart from the platform, okay. So social media is our biggest competitor because what we want is not the subscription fee from the consumers. We also want their time, right? They should give their time to us, to our content, right? And if they're spending time on social media, they're scrolling reels on Instagram, right? So they will not give us time and attention. So our content should be short. So it's like go well or sync well with the social media trends. So this is how they will give time here and they will consume content. Otherwise, they will clearly skip it. Until it's very big content, very larger than live content, okay, they will not watch it.
Seema, you wanted to add something to.
Yeah, I mean, see, there are two facets to it. One, you actually answered the question yourself, when you spoke about the attention deficit today. See, what has made microdrama or any other thing successful today is not only that the platforms have learned to capture the attention span of the audience, which is getting minimal by the day. So it's not that I'm short on time. I'm short on time, but I also want to make the maximum use of it. I want to do something which is relatable to me. And if it is in my language, even better. That is how the entire schema is working. So shorter on the time, relevant content, relatable content, which is making sense to me. For example, if I'm in Punjab, vis-a-vis if I'm in Bangalore, for example, I am looking at Diwali in a very different way. I have two very separate views. And forget Punjab and Bangalore, even in the South India itself, between a Chennai to a Bangalore, there is a vast difference between the way today audiences are looking at the kind of content. So it has to become relevant to the audience. And that is the success for any platform today. It could be a micro drama, it could be a short form video, or anything else. Not only it being short, it being relevant to the audience. It has to be spoken not only in their language, but also in the dialect that they talk. Today a successful creator understands the pulse of the audience. Somebody staying in a upper Bombay would have a very different dialect from somebody staying in, let's say, Nasik, even if they are both talking the same language. And today, the most of the intelligent creators that I've met across my career realize this sensitivity and accordingly produce the content. Why is it relevant for brands and how it is becoming relevant for brands is if the content is collaborative and I can make the brand as protagonist while I'm building up the story, I think my job is done. At the end of the story, if the user remembers not only the storyline, but they also remember the very subtle, unintrusive way in which I introduced the brand and made it part of the story, they would remember both. If I'm talking of NPCI or UPI as a client, I do not have to essentially talk about UPI. There is a very intelligent, unintrusive way wherein I can show the usage of the product. Similarly, we have done a lot of work with, many products of HUL. We have done many work with Amazon across regions. Not only their pan-India projects, but we have also done regional content projects. We are doing a lot of work with, let's say, infrastructure guys like Ultratech. Everybody wants to be part of the story. Nobody wants to be just a 30-second ad today. That is what has changed.
I guess
it should blend well in the story, right? That's all.
It has to be collaborative. Unless it is collaborative, it will not fly off. Audiences are very woke today and they understand the difference.
Yes.
Something what Pratap also said, that it should become a character of the story. So,
Yeah.
Ravindra Sejal, do you have anything to add to this?
No, I want to add one thing to the सेजल्स पॉइंट, क्योंकि उन्होंने जो कहा कि टाइटल स्पॉन्सर या फिर ऐसे चीज़ें जो होती है वो भी मुझे लगता है बहुत अच्छे से वर्क कर जाती है ब्रांड के लिए, क्योंकि वो बहुत इजी इंटीग्रेशन होता है, कुछ हर्डल नहीं होता है उसकी वजह से स्टोरी को, और ब्रांड रिकॉल बहुत अच्छे से हो जाता है, क्योंकि बहुत सारे ब्रांड्स चाहते हैं कि उनका लोगो दिखे, उनका नाम दिखे क्लियरली ऑडियंस को। तो वहाँ पे बहुत अच्छी जगह होती है कि जब भी टाइटल अपीयर हो सीरीज़ का, वो ब्रांड का नाम भी साथ में आ जाए, जो हार्म भी नहीं करता हमें, क्योंकि आदत है वो देखने की हमेशा। जो भी हम सीरियल टीवी पे हम देखते हैं या फिर कोई भी शो हो, आईपीएल हो, हमें पता है कि उसके सामने ब्रांड का नाम मतलब बहुत नॉर्मल चीज़ है वो, तो वैसे भी रिकॉल हो जाता है ब्रांड के लिए। और भी एक चीज़ है कि बहुत सारे ब्रांड्स ऐसा करते हैं कि हमें एक ही जगह पे इंटीग्रेशन चाहिए पर 15 सेकंड का चाहिए या फिर जो भी है टाइम। तो उसकी जगह अगर 2 जगह 3 जगह सटली छोटा छोटा भी कर दे तो भी कभी कभी स्टोरी में बहुत अच्छे से फिट हो जाता है, और मतलब देखने के लिए भी बहुत एब्रप्ट नहीं लगता। नहीं तो ऐसा लगता है कि यार अभी ये ऐड आया है, मैं स्किप कर देता हूँ आगे, तो आगे भगा देते। तो ऐसा अगर बिट्स एंड पीसेस में अगर थोड़ा इंटीग्रेशन होता है तो वो सटल भी होता है बहुत अच्छी तरीके से, और एग्जैक्ट जगह पे आता है जहाँ पे उसको होना चाहिए।
Correct. Okay, while we're also talking about brands, I want to ask, when should a brand choose a micro drama? What framework should it follow? What answer they should be seeking, that okay, this is the answer I'm going to get from micro drama, because it's not just micro dramas are trending these days, so I should be part of it.
I think I've personally been seeing a lot of brands create their own microdramas as well, which rest on their page and they kind of contract the project itself. I think the approach we've been talking about is creator produces it and usme that integrations ho rahi hain. That's a wonderful approach in itself. And I think this approach where say Uber produces or like Bumble, they make 10 episodes of whatever, somebody falling in love or whatever, and say they hire me to creative produce the whole thing. I think that's a win-win for like someone do this with me. This is going to be an amazing project. And we as creators get to come on board as co-producers and the creative leads on that. And I think if say Bumble is making something like this, the expectation from the audience is also कि ये Bumble का project है, but there will be a creative vision of someone like me or someone like Ravindra. So there's also that angle there. So in that sense, we also don't have to shy away from the fact कि brand को subtly
It's a
integrate
brand.
करना है क्योंकि ये तो brand का ही है. And it's amazing. Like it will work out in the ways of budgets as well. I think production leeway will also be higher. And that personability will come from a creator as well. I think brand should get on this and contact us. That would be great.
Pratap and Seema.
Can I, if I can, just add to what Sejal said. See, I think every brand should have microdrama as part of their plans. It's the natural progression of media planning today. It is not a question of, if not this, then what else? It is
Okay.
part of the planning today. Uh, and it is not an artificial thing. It's not something which is different from rest of the planning scheme. And treat it in a way that you don't always have to be part of the entire story. There are different ways wherein you can become part of the microdrama. There are brands which create their own stories, like Sejal said, and they can use platform like ShareChat and Moj only for the distribution of those stories. Let's say and they can use my strength in tier 2, tier 3 markets today or any other platform. They can come to us and give a brief, and we will create a bespoke series for them from 0 to 100. We have a lot of international acquired drama. Somebody like a gal can come to us and say that, hey, we want to have an integration around Korean glass skin in the Korean international drama. We would love to use, creators and create something for them only as part of, those Korean dramas. So there are multiple touch points today within the microdrama ecosystem. So it is no longer a question of whether or not, it is already there and you can't ignore it. So, it has to become part of your natural scheme of things. Like we used to do Aston's title sponsorships, those 9 o'clock spots in TV. Microdrama has become a hygiene and you can't ignore it.
Okay. While we're talking that it has to be there, I also want to know what are the metrics that a brand or anybody who's creating a micro drama should look at. What are the metrics that helps you understand that okay, this is what investing, or this is what there is what making a season two maybe.
Yeah, this is just a brand recall. If a brand recall come from that integration, then it's worth. Otherwise, getting just views or engagement, it is fine. But Brand recall should be there.
Sejal, you've been producing, what do you think that you've been producing 1 minute drama and you have multiple variations of it, but how do you evaluate that these are the metrics you look at and you understand that okay, this is worth producing?
Yeah, as a creator, I think we get greedy and we just look at views and engagement. But I think I've started to shift my mindset also to look at qualitative stuff more. So if I see more like comments, deeper engagement, like if someone's DMing me about it, or even things like people sometimes write to you specifically, ये तुम्हारा ये वाला drama बड़ा सही था. तो just in terms of that type of engagement also, that also matters a lot. So I try to remind myself that it's a balance of both and to not make decisions just based on one skewed metric.
रविंद्र, आपको क्या लगता है?
यस यस श्योर, मतलब मैं एग्री हूँ दोनों के भी पॉइंट्स पे, प्रताप और सेजल के, क्योंकि सिर्फ व्यूज़ वगैरह तो नहीं मतलब डिसाइड कर सकते कि कैसे ब्रांड के लिए वर्कआउट हुआ है या नहीं हुआ है। वो मतलब बहुत ब्रांड टू ब्रांड वो वेरी करेगा, मतलब जिस ब्रांड को सिर्फ विजिबिलिटी चाहिए उसके लिए व्यूज़ वर्क कर जाएगा क्योंकि नाम स्प्रेड हो जाएगा ब्रांड का, तो उनका गोल अचीव हो जाएगा। पर जिस ब्रांड को मतलब ऐसा चाहिए कि बहुत उनका मतलब नीश ऑडियंस है वो ब्रांड का कि खरीदने वाला वगैरह, तो उस टाइम पे व्यूज़ नहीं मैटर करेगा, मैटर करेगा कि वो सही क्रिएटर के पास गया है या नहीं, और सही ऑडियंस के पास गया है नहीं। तो वो मुझे लगता है मतलब डिपेंड्स है।
Okay, coming towards the end of this session, I would want to ask one thing from on behalf of something that bases your understanding of the micro dramas and how the ecosystem around it is what's one myth that you do think that it's okay associated with micro dramas? And I would also maybe it could be the same thing, or maybe you do want to make it towards a brand segment side, that okay, what misconception brands still have about micro dramas, maybe because maybe while associating with a creator or producing one, or maybe while looking at a distribution, anything that if your experience can help us. Yeah, Pratap.
जस्ट दैट यार ये माइक्रो ड्रामा में मैंने इंटीग्रेशन किया है, मेरे को फटाफट सेल आ जाएगा, फटाफट सब्सक्रिप्शन आ जाएगा, आई विल मेक ए क्विक मनी. ओके, दिस इज द बिगेस्ट मिसकंसेप्शन आई बिलीव इन, राइट? इट्स ऑल ब्रांड वैल्यू, नथिंग एल्स. आई बिलीव इन दैट.
So the key takeaway for a brand should be that it's going to give them a brand recall.
Brand recall, brand recognition, and all these things, right? But a quick subscription or quick sale is like a misconception, I believe in.
Okay, Seema.
Yeah, I think the way we perceive micro dramas has to change. Everybody wants to do micro drama, but buy it like a television series. That needs to change. Like Pratap very rightly said, this is a brilliant brand, an exercise for brands positioning. We do it and then we say that ROS nahi aaya. ROI chahiye campaign ka. That can't happen. The second biggest myth is a lot of times, clients come to us and say that we want to invest in series jiske seasons maximum ho. It doesn't work like that. Micro drama will never work on a season 1, season 2, season 3 format. It is meant for a different kind of audience. It is meant for people who are always on the move, who want to consume relatable content while they're on the move, they're taking a coffee break, they're on a 45-minute bike ride from one part of the city to the other. And they will never come back for a season 2. Very rare cases you would have seasons running on micro drama. So please don't buy micro dramas, like micro dramas are a brilliant brand building positioning. Don't go for ROI from each episode. That it doesn't work like that. It will help your brand look at it with a longer vision and not a very myopic lens, is what I'll say.
I completely get your point about season, because it's more about investing in one story, and if someone has to stay alone for a multiple seasons, it's as good as show somewhere, they will see
Look,
somewhere with a
look at
different
the
episode.
yeah, look at the audience. You know, the behavior is on social. Forget micro drama for a minute. Even if you look at only short form videos, you know, which were really populated by, let's say, Moj, or let's say we had TikTok, you know, previous to Moj, the audience set is changing on a periodic basis. So there are new set of audiences which are coming in a landscape every day. So that is the need. I mean, you need to have refreshed, relatable content, churn it out at a higher speed rather than sticking to one kyunki saas bhi kabhi bahut hi sari story and making 15 seasons out of it. It's a different audience. It will not fly with them.
Ravindra, what do you think? What's the biggest misconception brands have?
मुझे तो लगता है पहला मिसकंसेप्शन अभी ऑडियंस या ब्रांड्स में भी है कुछ कि ये बबल है, जस्ट माइक्रो ड्रामास, ये खत्म हो जाएगा थोड़ी दिन बाद। तो वो मुझे ज़्यादा मिसकंसेप्शन लगता है, क्योंकि वो रहेगा हमेशा विथ अलोंग विथ अदर प्लेटफॉर्म्स। जैसे कि टीवी इवॉल्व हुआ, फिल्म आई, फिर वेब सीरीज आई, काइंड ऑफ माइक्रो ड्रामा रहेगा। ये एक सबसे ज़्यादा मुझे लगता है मिसकंसेप्शन। और दूसरा, ब्रांड्स का अगर स्पेसिफिकली बोला जाए तो ऐसा कि मतलब ब्रांड्स को चाहिए होता है कि उनका ज़्यादा इंटीग्रेशन उसमें हो, ज़्यादा पार्ट हो, और इसी टाइम पे आना चाहिए वगैरह वगैरह। तो मुझे लगता है कि माइक्रो ड्रामास के साथ उन्होंने वो फ्रीडम ये रखना चाहिए कि स्टोरी में वो अगर अच्छे से फिट होता है, ऑडियंस को वो पसंद आ जाती है स्टोरी, तो क्या होता है ना कि इमोशनली एक जगह क्रिएट हो जाता है ऑडियंस के माइंड में उस माइक्रो ड्रामा के लिए। तो वो ज़्यादा हेल्प करता है, क्योंकि कोई भी ब्रांड अगर इमोशंस से सेल होता है तो वो ज़्यादा वर्क करता है। तो अगर माइक्रो ड्रामाज वो इमोशन क्रिएट कर पाए ऑडियंस के बीच, और उसी में ब्रांड इंटीग्रेशन हो उस सीरीज में, तो इट विल डेफिनेटली वर्क फॉर दैट ब्रांड ऑल्सो।
Rasmitha.
So what Ravinder says, just I want to add on that कोई भी कंटेंट फॉर्मेट फ्रॉम द पास्ट जो आता चला है आज तक कोई भी डाई नहीं हुआ है. एवरी कंटेंट फॉर्मेट इज देयर, like novels, like TV series, like short movies, like movies, like OTT, social media, nothing has gone. Okay, जो 1000 साल पहले कंटेंट फॉर्मेट था वो आज भी है. Not a single format is dead. Okay, so micro drama will be there, and in future there are more format will come. Okay, and all will coexist. This is what I say. So it will never.
Each piece of content finds its audience in that sense.
Yes. Nothing else. So
Okay.
nothing will go. Okay, everything will be here.
Okay. Sejal.
Yeah, interesting. I really like what you guys are saying because I also feel that people have the ability to watch different things. It's about what you want in that moment. मैं कल रात को सूट्स देख रही थी, मैं खुद माइक्रो ड्रामास बनाती हूँ, तो मतलब so of course, like there's a different time for each type of thing that fits into our day and our needs. And in terms of misconceptions, I've been trying to think of an answer. I just don't have any, and I kind of don't care. Like, I will just keep on making whatever fits the market. And if this space also evolves, which I'm sure it will, and it should, we'll just adapt to that. Who cares?
Okay, so either you've been lucky with brands or you really don't care.
No, I've been unlucky. I wouldn't say lucky or unlucky. I just feel ki I respect how the market works. I respect how brands work, and I also respect how creators work. So I see everybody's point of view, and certain things work and certain things don't work, and that's the nature of any kind of job. So that's what it is.
Amazing. Okay, thank you so much, guys. Thank you for sparing out time on this topic. I mean, I'm sure this is your part of your daily life, but it's something which is exciting, which is something I was keen on talking about, and I think my audience must have taken a lot from it. And I hope that this kind of content format grows from here. We see more series, we see more kind of because from years we've been stuck to a good story. We need a good story, and if it's a good story comes in any format, that's something that will be consumed. And thank you so much. Have a good day. Happy World Social Media Day. It's part of our life. We can't live without it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Ravindra,
Yes.
Pratap, Seema, and Sejal for a wonderful discussion. And thank you, Mrinal, for moderating our final panel of the day. And with that, we've come to the end of the 10th edition of SMLive. Today, we've explored what it means to stay relevant in an ever evolving social landscape. And if there's one takeaway from today's conversation, it's that attention may be fleeting, but relevance is what endures. I would like to thank our panelists for taking the time out to be with us today and sharing their unique experiences. I am sure our audience too had a great time listening to our speakers and are going back with some actionable insights. Thank you so much once again for joining us on this special occasion. We hope you have a wonderful evening ahead and look forward to seeing you again next year on the same day. On behalf of the entire team at Social Samosa, thank you for spending your World Social Media Day with us.